Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Deku turned down All Mights. If you guys enjoy this movie, comment down below. And let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story kingbuttgobbler from 𝐴3. So let's start the video. People are not born equal. That was the hard truth I learned at the age of 4. But that was my first and last setback. It all began in 𝐀𝐦 City in China, with news that the luminescent baby was born. After that, people with exceptional abilities began to pop up all over the world. The cause of such a phenomenon was unclear, but as time passed, the exceptional became normal. For many, fantasy became reality, and as the world is now, roughly 80% of people possess some special ability. Unfortunately, I'm one of the 20% of people who wasn't lucky enough to be born with a special ability, or quirks, as they came to be called. Fortunately, as I'd come to learn, I had talents I could grow to make my way in this world. For me, the only thing I'd ever wanted was to be a hero. But without a quirk, striving from such a dream was seen as stupid. As something I couldn't do. Maybe they were right. But I still think someone could be a hero with enough training and gear. But I'm getting off track. What pushed me towards something else was meeting my idol. The man who made the world safer and inspired me to be a hero to begin with, All Might. I just spent time being ridiculed for wanting to be a hero, told to jump off the roof so I could be reborn with a quirk, and had my hero analysis journal thrown into a koi pond. I was in my head, not paying attention, when he attacked. A villain made of some kind of liquid, green in color, with yellow eyes and teeth that were much bigger than a normal person would have. He jumped me, covering my mouth before I could scream, and I thought that this was my final stand. That I'd die without ever doing anything worthwhile. Who'd be there for my mom if I died, though? Struggling as hard as I could, my lungs burned, my body shook in fear, and I gave up, closing my eyes and praying I passed out soon. At least I wouldn't feel much pain that way. Texas, I heard, my eyes opening as I hoped someone had come for me, that I'd be saved, before my mind went black. Smash. And I lost consciousness, waking up getting slapped lightly by a giant muscular blonde man. Whoa, All Might? I'd asked him, sitting up and looking in awe to the one person whose opinion mattered to me. Hey, thank goodness, you're okay, excellent, he cheered, standing upright and looking like what a Greek god must have. Apologies for getting you caught up in my villain hunt. Mistakes like that aren't my style, but this is a strange land to me, and besides, I'm off camera. He joked while my mind raced 1,000,000 miles an hour. But my success here is all thanks to you. I've contained the villain. He held out a cola bottle with the villain inside. Something so small had almost killed me. I felt weaker than I ever had before in that moment. Oh, and an autograph. Where's my notebook? I yelled, freaking out as I pulled it out, flipping to the first empty page, seeing it filled in white his name and a doodle of his features. Wow, thank you so much. What a treasure. It'll be my family heirloom. I thank him, looking at it while a voice in my head gave me a push. All Might, before you go, even without a quirk, can I be a hero? I called out, watching him tense up. Can someone without a quirk become a hero like you? I called to him, blushing hard, my face hot. Quirks are... He started, looking back as I interrupted him. Because I don't have a quirk, well, maybe that's not the only reason. But I've always been picked on. That's why. Maybe that's why. I think saving people is just about the coolest thing someone can do. The way you save people with that fearless smile. I want to be the strongest hero, just like you. I told him, excitement and nervousness building inside me. A long sigh came from him, and he turned around, even though it seemed like he wanted to leave now. A pro should always be ready to risk his life. Without power, can one become a hero? I should think not. If you desire to help people, becoming a police officer is always an option. Those villain custody officers are often mocked. But that too is admirable work. It's not wrong to dream, but... He paused and squatted down. However, you need to dream realistically, kid. Jumping away, my dreams of heroism and bravery flew off with him. For a moment, I wanted to yell for him to come back, but it seemed like my voice was gone. What could I say? What would I say? All I knew was that he had to be wrong. I could prove him wrong. I knew I could. I'd work out. I'd take martial arts classes, use gear and skills to cover for my lack of a quirk. With a new plan in place, I started to run home, determined to become number one, even if I had to put myself through hell to do it. How could I know that All Might messed up? That the villain he'd captured in a cola bottle had gotten away? Of course he had. The villain was able to hold me in place and almost kill me. What good was a bottle cap against someone like that? Walking away could have been so easy. I could have left the scene and let the heroes take care of it. But this time, the person whose life was in danger was someone I'd never seen scared. Inside of the goopy villain was 𝐀𝐦, my childhood friend turned bully. The look in his eyes was something I'd never seen from him before, desperation and fear. And before I could even think, I started to run to him. "Get back here, you fool, stop!" One of the heroes handling the situation yelled. But I kept moving, not thinking as I pulled off my backpack and threw it, hitting the villain in his eye. "𝐀𝐦," I called as I stuck my hand into the villain, grabbing his hand as I felt my eyes water in fear. "You, why?" 𝐬𝐻 demanded as I tried to pull him out of the slime villain. "Because no matter what's happened in the past, you're my best friend. I could never sit back and let anything hurt you. Even if I know you don't need it, I'll always offer my hand out to you," I screamed back, panicking as slime covered his mouth. I was going to lose him. He was going to die because I was too weak. A hand grabbed mine and 𝐬𝐻's, pulling us out. The lesson I left you with. I should practice what I preach. A hero should always be ready to risk his own life. Detroit. I heard All Might say, watching him pull his free arm back. Smash. As he punched the villain, bits and pieces of the foul-smelling man getting splattered across the alley and into the streets behind us. I looked up at the sky, a little nauseous and overwhelmed, just as drops of rain began to fall. Rain? No way, the air pressure. The raising air current. He changed the weather with a single punch. Someone from the crowd cheered. Afterward, the heroes who were at the scene collected all the parts of the villain's scattered body. The police managed to get him into custody, while the heroes were really mad at me. There was absolutely no need to put yourself in danger. Death Arms screamed at me, but all it did was lit a fire inside me. You sure about that? What were you idiots doing besides sitting there and waiting for my friend to die? I screamed back, my outburst taking me surprise. But I didn't back down, instead turning on my heel and going to grab my backpack. They'd been so useless. Was that how all heroes acted? They couldn't be, right? I'd seen plenty of heroes in my life. It was my life's dream to be one. Was this a one-off incident? Or were all heroes like this? Maybe I could be the kind of hero who never hesitated to help others. I would save anyone and anything I could. If I did all I could, maybe I could be a top 100 hero even. Walking back home, I thought about how I owed All Might an apology. It was probably somehow my fault the slime villain got away. It was usually my fault when things went wrong. Maybe he'd settle for a message on his website. "Hey, Deku," I could hear from behind, getting screamed at by the same person I'd tried to save. I never asked you to save me. As if you could, huh? Well, I could have beaten him myself. He told me while I took the brief few seconds between him berating me to interrupt him. I know. You didn't ask me to try, and it was so stupid of me to try at all. But it's okay. I've learned my lesson. I'm going to aim for something else. Some sort of realistic goal. I told him, pulling my backpack further up on my shoulder and turning away, heading home. I was late. My mom would be worried. There it was. I'd given up on my dreams of heroism, and it was easier than I thought it was. I wasn't made for saving lives, and every school in the country would have entrance exams that would be impossible for me to pass anyway. "What will you do?" he asked, and I stopped in my tracks, thinking about it. I'd spent every moment of my life wanting to be a hero, and now I didn't know what I wanted to do. Good question. I guess I'll just have to figure that one out for myself. I replied as I walked away from the future hero. He knew what he was going to do. But I couldn't be mad. I always knew that being a hero was impossible. Maybe that was why I tried to be one. Taking a few more steps, I started to think about what else I would do. What I could do. Everything about me was centered on heroes. My notes, my room, my future plans. So what did I do now? "I am here," All Might spoke, zipping around a corner in a pose that made me think of one of those comic book speedsters. "Why are you here?" I asked, kind of shocked. No way this was a coincidence. Was he gonna yell at me? "Kid, I've come to thank you and revise what I said earlier. I also have a proposal." He told me, going from buff man to skinny skeletal man. But those eyes, they were still the same ones that gave me hope when I saw his videos on the internet. Without you, if I hadn't heard your story, I'd have been nothing but fake muscles and insincerity, so thank you. What? But the slime villain getting away was my fault. If I hadn't distracted you, gotten in your way, even though I'm quirkless, I dared to ask if. I started, unsure of how to apologize. Exactly. Of all the people at the scene, it was you, timid and quirkless, who acted. You spurred me to action. Most of the top pros show signs of greatness, even as children. Many of them claim that their bodies simply moved before they could think. He told me, and I wasn't sure where he was going with this. That's what happened to you back there, yes? He asked me, something new brewing up inside me. Yes, I replied softly, trying to think in such a strange scenario. You too can be 𝐬𝐻𝐬 𝐍𝐴, he told me, my brain going from confused to full-on raging out now. What the hell is wrong with you? First you tell me no, now you tell me yes, and I'm supposed to be okay with that? You were someone I wanted to be, someone I looked up to. That's why I'll never be a hero. I'll do something greater. I'll make sure that your name fades to time, and I end up remembered forever. I yelled at him, anger and rage. I didn't know I had boiling over at the #1 hero. But I knew he of all people could take it. I hate you. With that, I made sure my bag was on properly, storming away as I went to make my future. Whatever I did, I'd have to be bigger and better than All Might. 6 weeks later, and having run through dozens of hobbies to try and see if I had any hidden talents, I felt no closer to figuring out how I'd do that. But that didn't stop me. It gave me a new purposeful pursuit, and I cherished knowing I was in charge of my destiny now. School got easier, too, since 𝗵𝘃𝐻 didn't bother bullying me. We weren't exactly friends, but a weird peace had been made between us, and I wasn't going to disrupt it now that our other childhood friends were being nicer, too. Besides, it meant I was speaking more with other kids in my class and speaking up more often. I liked being heard, and I liked that I could show off the other parts of me that the hero fan in me had suppressed all these years. And for once, I felt like I belonged in this world, even if I was the minority of people in it. Mr. Midoriya, are you all right? I heard, and I remembered where I was. My counselor, Mr. Kohei's office. Why was I here again? I think so, I replied, feeling myself and checking for any injuries. Had I hurt myself when I was daydreaming? I believe something is happening to you, and I must say, I'm a bit worried about you. While your social skills have skyrocketed lately, your grades have slipped substantially. I'm afraid that you may be on drugs or have something physically wrong with you. I'm not on drugs, sir. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life. After I graduate, what do I want to do? I can't be a hero. I'm not made for it, and I want to be the very best at what I do. So what can I do? I asked him, leaning forward a bit in my chair. Midoriya, you have to decide something soon. You graduate this year and need to choose a high school that has a program for whatever you choose. Since you're so unfocused, I'll be keeping a closer eye on you, as well as give you this. He wrote something down and slid the paper to me. What is it? I questioned, not too interested. It was taking too long, and after this, I planned to see if I was any good at pottery. It's a musical group that meets twice weekly. I'm sure they'll be able to help you foster concentration, creativity, discipline, and most importantly, it'll give you an outlet to develop your budding social skills further. They meet Tuesdays and Fridays, which means there's a meeting tonight. You have amazing potential, and right now, bouncing around aimlessly, it's wasted. Take those classes, take some time to figure out what you want, and work your butt off for it. Do you understand? He asked, getting on my nerves. It seemed like all anyone cared about was that I was aimless. Where was this much attention when I was being bullied? Yeah, I'll try not to screw it up too much, I assured him, shoving the paper in my pocket and standing, ready to leave. That's not what I said, Midoriya. It's never what anyone says, but it's what they mean. Turns out I sucked at pottery, too, and all I got was dirty and annoyed from my experience. But at least I had something to wipe my hands on, pulling out the paper from my pocket and looking at it, a bit of clay already staining it. Did I have anything to lose, going to some class? If I didn't, I could always go on Friday. Man, screw it. I decided before washing my hands, and then pulling my phone out to look up the group. A little research wouldn't hurt. Kyoka Music Group. They preached teaching music to enrich the soul. Seemed kinda weird, but who was I to judge? Plus, it wasn't too out of the way if I got off the train early and just caught a different train later. I just have to let my mom know where I was first. One train ride later, and I was standing outside of a music shop, a sign on the door. Closed for youth group. Thanks for understanding. I read, the door opening with a little ding from a bell that hung up. Hello? Is anyone here? I called out before the door shut behind me with another little ding. Sorry, we're closed right now. We open in the morning. A man called from behind a shelf, blonde hair that flowed past his shoulders, hiding any features of his face as he half looked over. This is the musical group, right? My guidance counselor suggested this place. I replied, a little bit of boredom in my voice. I wasn't interested in music. Why did I even come here? Taking a step to the side, he could see me better, and I could make out his face too. He was late 20s, maybe early 30s, shaven recently, so he almost looked clean shaven. But what I was more interested in was the group behind him. A few teens sat around joking and playing instruments, and I watched them, completely mesmerized by their sense of friendship. I'd never seen anyone joke as easily and comfortable as they did with each other. Oh, you must be 𝐷𝗏𝗧. You're a little late, so we figured you weren't coming. Lots of kids don't show up. A woman with long purple hair spoke, her head poking around the blonde man. I am, yes. I'm sorry about showing up late. I had plans already, and they were non-refundable. I apologized while my face felt like it was burning. Nothing more or less. I told them, gritting my teeth and walking around them, my hands buried in my pockets, over to where the other teens were. Once I figured out how much I sucked at this, I could go home. A boy with mouse ears and teeth. Another with a short muzzle and white hair that looked like wool. A girl with a face covering that hid everything but her eyes. Another girl with bright yellow eyes and grayish-blue hair. And finally, a girl with purple hair and earlobes that moved around that had headphone jacks connected to the end of them. Hey, welcome to our little group. I'm 𝐲𝐬. The earphone girl spoke to me, looking away from the others. All the others looking up at me as well. Great. The spotlight in front of a bunch of strangers. Just what I wanted. I'm 𝐷𝗏𝗧. I'm not really sure what I'm doing here, but I'm here. I replied honestly, looking back over at the two adults and feeling stupid. Crap, I didn't mean to lose my temper with them. That's okay. You can just watch if you want. We're just going over some basic chords since everyone here is pretty new, except Hitsuji. But it doesn't hurt to cover the basics, even with experience. She told me, relief filling me as I took the only open seat, right next to the girl with the face covering, 𝐲𝐬 explaining the next few chords. What a C chord was, then an M and an E. Hiya, I'm 𝐬𝐻. Nice to meet you. She whispered, and I turned with a smile. 𝐷𝗏𝗧, it's nice to meet you too. I whispered back, my eyes moving to the instrument in her hands as she played it slowly, trying to match 𝐲𝐬's movements, my eyes switching between the both of them for a few moments. Your fingers don't match 𝐲𝐬's. I told 𝐬𝐻 without thinking, and I could see a look of annoyance in her eyes. Sorry. I'm good at patterns. I didn't mean that as an insult. I apologized, and the look in her eyes faded, a mischievous one replacing it. Okay, Mr. Pattern Guy, you give it a try. She told me playfully, offering the guitar to me. Hey, he's just here to watch today. There's no need to force him to do something he doesn't want to. The mouse guy told her, but the girl with bright eyes covered his mouth, and they started to play fight. I didn't even mean to say anything. It just slipped out. But with all of them looking at me, how could I turn her down? Okay, let's see. I took the guitar, muttering a little as I adjusted it for my body, feeling the strings and the wood in my hands before I put my fingers in position and nodded. Slowly, I plucked at the strings, my fingers kind of hurting a little, but I didn't want to give up over a little discomfort, feeling a little more confident as I repeated the chord, faster this time, mixing in different notes, experimenting with the sounds, letting the ones I liked best join the others. This is easier than I thought. I finally spoke, and I felt at ease, like my body knew more than I did. A hand covering the strings as I started at the third time. Okay, I get it. I'll pay more attention, 𝐬𝐻 told me playfully, and I felt my face burning. For a moment, I'd been the center of attention, and I didn't care. I'd let the music shield me from the rest of the world. I'm sorry. I kind of got sucked into the music, I told her, and she just laughed, gyro poking the side of my head with one of her headphone jacks. Have you ever played any instruments before? She asked, my head shaking. No, sorry. It was just something that felt natural, I told her, and I liked the feeling. I liked being good at something that didn't have anything to do with heroes. Well, grab a guitar from the cases over there. Let's see how far natural talent can get you, she told me, and I could see a small smile and something else on her face. It looked like I'd managed to surprise her, just a little. For the rest of the time the group had, I played along with them, making jokes when I could think of one and feeling like I fit in for the first time in my life. All right, I think that's it for today. Friday, you're going to continue learning chords and chord progression, so keep that in mind, Mr. 𝐬𝐬 told us. But this was supposed to last until 8, wasn't it? Checking my phone. It was 2 minutes passes, and I wondered where the time went as I helped clean up, putting the guitar I'd been using back up. The sheep boy, 𝐬𝐻, and 𝐬𝐻 deep in conversation about a coffee shop that had just opened. 𝐵𝑡𝐻, would you stay a moment? Mr. 𝐬𝐬 asked, and I felt embarrassed again. But I'd been rude to him and his wife. If he wanted to speak in private, who was I to argue? A few oohs went up from the others, and I felt stupid as they left, unable to meet either adult's eyes. Do you know why we asked you to stay, don't you? Mrs. 𝐬𝐬 asked, and I nodded slowly. I felt like a young child being scolded by his elders. I know. I'm really sorry I was rude with both of you. I'm sick of being underestimated and looked at like I'm some geeked out loser. There was silence for a moment before they laughed, and I felt like I might cry. That's not why we asked you to stay, but apology accepted, kid, Mr. 𝐬𝐬 told me, my eyes finally meeting his. What? Then why? I questioned, suddenly afraid. Was the group full? Was I being kicked out? But I liked it here. You showed an extreme amount of talent tonight, taking to that guitar like a duckling to water. That kind of talent won't get you all the way. However, you need practice and lessons. Lessons we want to give you, his wife told me, and I felt tears in my eyes anyway. Seriously? You'd do that? I mean, of course, I'd love that. How much? I'm not worried about the cost. I've been making money selling my 𝐬𝐬 merchandise online, so I can pay you whatever. The words spouted out faster than I could think, tears of joy falling with them, until something tapped the back of my head roughly, but it didn't hurt too much. You aren't paying them. I saw how playing that guitar turned you into a different person, and I convinced them to do it for free, Gyro told me, and I wiped my eyes. I'll help around your store then. If you won't accept money, at least accept my blood, sweat, and tears, I told her, watching the three of them silently share a look. Fine. But that's it. No money, Mrs. 𝐬𝐬 told me, and if living with just my mother had taught me anything, it was that you didn't argue when a mom used that tone of voice. Yes, ma'am. I swear, I'll do whatever it takes to be the best, as long as one day I can outshine even 𝐬𝐬, I told them, their faces falling in confusion, but they didn't press the issue for now. Well then, if that's settled, we still need to lock up. Good night, 𝐵𝑡𝐻, Gyro told me, using her jacks to poke me in the side, guiding me outside of the front door and closing it with a playful smile. Good night, Gyro, I muttered back, watching her through the glass a moment longer, my journey starting with one small act of kindness. I had 10 short months to get good enough at music to try and get into a school with a good music course, which was years less than some of the best students in the world. Piano, electric and acoustic guitar, the violin. In months, I went from knowing nothing to gradually learning how to play all of them, even if my violin skills were a little behind compared to the other instruments I knew, especially my skills with a Strat guitar. Something about it made me feel at ease, and the way notes sounded coming out of it. I found myself playing it more often than not when I was with the 𝐬𝐬 family. Luckily for me, Mr. 𝐬𝐬 was a composer, helping me to better grasp the music on the pages, to understand even more of what I didn't know. Patient and kind, he never raised his voice or seemed annoyed with me, always greeting the music group and my private lessons with snacks and a smile. Mrs. 𝐬𝐬 was a talented musician, willing to help me learn how to play more efficiently so I could better connect with the notes I was playing. She wasn't as patient, but she was fair and kind, and her strict practice routines helped me to get better with every instrument they taught. 𝐍𝐲. She was the opposite. She was rude at times, made jokes at my expense, and was always willing to show me up. But she could be kind, and when I did something right, getting praise from her made me feel like I wasn't wasting all of our time. Maybe I could make a good life out of all of this. A part of me wanted to get as good as she was, and then better, even if I knew she wasn't competing. She planned to be a hero, and with a quirk like hers, she could do it easily. But with only a few weeks left, I wondered if I was good enough. Did my skill and enjoyment of this outweigh the years of experience someone else had doing the exact same thing? A sudden pain came from my neck, and 𝐍𝐲 pulled her jack back, looking unamused with me. "Oh, what was that for?" I complained, even if I knew I would be fine. She never even left a mark, just getting my attention. "You were muttering to yourself against. It's kind of creepy." Rolling my eyes, I moved my fingers away from the strings, finally looking at her. "It's not creepy. It's just easier to figure out my thoughts when they're not inside my head." "It's kinda creepy," she repeated, and I put my fingers back on the strings of the Strat I was playing. "I'm just worried. Okay. I've only been doing music for a couple of months, and I'm not even as good as you. What chance do I have to get into a music program?" I asked her, feelings I'd bottled up for the last few weeks spilling out. Even if I loved playing, was it enough? "Dude, you're worrying too much about it. Do you think I'd help you if you were just gonna flop? If you were wasting your time, I'd tell you," she assured me, moving her hand to the body of the Strat, pulling it away so I couldn't play. "When you're in 𝐸, can we still play music together?" I asked, the words kind of spewing out as I held the neck of the guitar. "You think just because I'm going to be a hero, I'll stop playing music with you? You're the only person my age who can keep up with me." "Really?" I asked softly, feeling like a stupid kid. "That's what I was, though, wasn't it? Really? Now, are we gonna jam or not?" she questioned, moving her hand off the body of the guitar while I adjusted and got ready. The realization that she'd become my best friend, just a little more motivation as we played. Finally, the day came for me to actually take my entrance exam for the Tokyo School of Fine Arts Classical Music, otherwise known as the SOFA, for the first few letters of the school's name. It had taken months of work to get here, but I had the faith of my mother, the 𝐀𝐦 family, and I was confident in my own abilities. There wasn't much I could do to prepare now, eating a quiet breakfast with my mother and thinking of the song I planned to play on violin. It was a little harder, but Mrs. 𝐀𝐦 had me practice until I knew the melody like my own name. "Today's the day." My mom spoke, looking a little unsure of my choice of career. But what mother wanted their child to be a musician, let alone one with minimal practice? "You should go. You don't want to be late." "That's true. If I was late, it would be a whole year before I could try again." Giving her a nod, I stood and cleared the table, taking a second in the kitchen to gather myself. "I could do this. I would do this." "Right. I'll see you later, Mom." I finally managed to reply. My worries would never really leave me, so I was as ready to do this as I could be. A short train ride later, and I was at the shop. Even if I was crunched for time, I had to see the people who believed in me. "Izuku, what are you doing here, man?" Mr. 𝐀𝐦 asked, but I grinned and held up the case with the violin they were letting me use. "I'm on my way. I just wanted to stop by and say thank you for all that the three of you have done for me," I replied excitedly, grinning as I looked around. "It's Sunday. Where's 𝐍𝐲 and Mrs. 𝐀𝐻? My old lady has a gig she's preparing for, and 𝐍𝐲 already left for the 𝐸 entrance exam." "Oh, well, I guess I could come back later and say thank you. Maybe if I'd gotten here earlier, I could have had this moment. But now, I needed to. Hey, man, you gotta get going. And remember, don't listen to that little voice in your head. It's wrong. You got this," Mr. 𝐀𝐻 told me, drawing me out of thoughts and pushing me out the door. "Yeah, I'll come by later to properly thank you. See ya," I called, running as quickly as I could. God bless whoever ran the trains because I just barely managed to make it to registration before they closed the doors. First came the written exam, which wasn't too hard, since I'd been studying to get into 𝐸, with their exceptionally low acceptance rate. Second came the physical exam. We'd be judged on a short performance, and even though I had to submit a recording to even get this far, I was surrounded by at least 100 other students. That wasn't even factoring in the fine and performing arts students who were testing in another part of the school. Midoriya Izuku, Aldera Junior High, one of the staff members called, and I jumped up, my violin ready to go. Hello, I'm Midoriya Izuku, and today I'll be playing Johann Sebastian Bach's Partita No. 2 in D minor. I spoke into the mic, taking out the violin and feeling it. It wasn't the instrument I felt most comfortable with, but I loved it just the same. It was an extension of the kindness that the 𝐀𝐦 family had given me. Closing my eyes, my bow began to move, feeling the peace as I remembered the hours it took to learn. Smooth and graceful, powerful in the emotions it elicited, yet fun and playful. It's a classic piece that was difficult, but that's why I practiced so hard, so I could perform without looking like a fool. As soon as the piece ended, I opened my eyes, looking at the evaluators, who took a few notes before a man with fins on his neck cleared his throat. You'll receive our final decision by mail at the end of the end week. You may leave, he told me, and as I put the violin away and walked off stage, I wondered if I made it in. Was I good enough up there to impress? Taking my things, I began to walk. Sure, I couldn't get home if I walked. It was too far, but there were plenty of stations, and I was too in my head to be around people. Besides, I was in Tokyo, the largest city in the country, and my only friends were probably still testing. Did it really hurt to stay a little and explore a little? Figuring that it couldn't, I explored the bustling area, enjoying the noise as I found myself in an area I felt like I shouldn't, surrounded by drunks and people in suits who looked bored as they babysat their drunken friends or co-workers. Yo, kid, is that a violin? One of the less drunk men yelled, a set with canines that didn't fit entirely in his mouth, making his already slurred words muffled. Yes, sir. I nervously replied, swallowing back fear. So far, he was just a friendly drunk. There was no need to worry. Can you play something for me? Something fun, he asked, watching his lady companion switch his drink with a water with a lemon slice. Fun. I can if give me a moment to pull up the sheet music, I confidently told him, pulling up a song on my phone that had been trending lately. Okay, you like Michael Jackson? I can play Smooth Criminal, I told him, taking out the instrument and putting bow to string, playing the relatively simple piece. For pop classic to classical, it still sounded pretty good, even if I expected someone to start singing. Not bad. Can you speed it up? The stranger asked, his voice a little clearer now. Doing as he asked, I played faster, then a little more, and as stupid as it was to play a violin I didn't own for a drunk man, I was enjoying myself too much. As the song ended, I put my bow down, realizing that it wasn't just the drunk man and the woman he was with watching me now. It seemed like everyone around had stopped to listen. You got some real talent there. Are you thinking about music as a career? He asked, sobered up enough that his words no longer slurred. That's what I applied to school for, I admitted, and he nodded to his female companion, who pulled a card out and handed it to me. Should you fail, give us a call, she spoke, and all I could do was nod. Okay. I should be going. Thanks for letting me play a little, I told them as I put the violin up, the card getting slipped into my pocket before I went to find the closest train station. I'd had enough excitement for one day. First, I made a pit stop at the shop, taking a few minutes to relax and pretend like I wasn't just ready to go home and pass out in my bed. Back again. How was Tokyo? Mr. 𝐀𝐦 asked, a sly grin on his face I didn't understand. He was usually direct with whatever he had to say. Nice. It's a little louder than I thought it would be, but I got to explore a little bit, I admitted, going to go put the violin away in the storeroom. You just explored? Nothing else? He asked, and as I saw Gyro standing in a doorway, a weird look on her face, I wondered where this was going. I played a song for someone who asked, but that's it. The admission making me feel stupid. It was stupid, and I was lucky the drunk was so nice. Do you know who you played for? Or was it just a stranger? Mrs. 𝐀𝐦 asked, and I felt shame now. I risked losing the violin and getting hurt. No, ma'am. I was asked to play, and I just did, I mumbled, not able to meet her eyes. I do. That was Kin and Hoshi, an executive at Ongaku Carnival, she told me, and judging from the look on her face, I was supposed to know who that was. But how the heck did she know who that guy was? He sounds pretty important, but how do you know who I played for? Gyro poked me in the side, and I gave her as annoyed of a glare as I could, all things considered. Because you're trending. My friend told me, and I knew she had to be joking. Ha. Ha. You're hilarious. Pulling out her phone, she pulled up a video on Twitter that was taken of me from the side where I hadn't noticed. That was me, playing for a guy I didn't know then. But there were tons of people who played violin on the internet. Why was I so popular? What? Why? Who? I questioned as I snatched the phone, wondering how I'd gotten so much attention before I saw who reposted the video. 𝐀𝐦? 𝐀𝐻, symbol of peace, and someone I was conflicted about personally, reposted a video of me. Was this to apologize for what he said? If it was, it more than made up for it. Which meant I needed to let go of my anger and move on, too, didn't it? 𝐬𝐻𝐬? Gyro asked, gently tapping my shoulder. I was so lost in thought about things I didn't understand, I almost forgot the things I did. Thank you all so much. Without your support, I have no idea where I'd have ended up. I owe any future given to me to the three of you. I finally told them, giving them a bow before handing Gyro back her phone. Continue to be humble, but don't downplay the hard work that you put in either. Mrs. Kyoka encouraged, giving me food for thought. A grin that I couldn't seem to get rid of found its way on my face, feeling like I'd won the lottery, even as I had to say my goodbyes. I've got to get home and see if I can't get ahead of the news and tell my mom first. Oh, and Gyro, I hope you get into 𝐸. You deserve it. The sheer shock of it wore off on the way home, and by the time I got to the front door, I was feeling pretty good about both my odds of getting into 𝐸. My mom already knew by the time I was home that I was trending, and people had already found my own social media pages. There was no hiding what was happening, or that I intended to ride this wave of popularity as long as I could. When the letter arrived, I took it to my room and prayed as hard as I could, opening it to find a well-worded but firm rejection. Mr. Midoriya, due to your recent social media popularity and the fact staff have seen your video, we cannot at this time accept you into our institution. While your written test score was one of our highest in the history of our school, we just cannot fairly evaluate your in-person presentation. Staring at the letter, I felt defeated. All my hard work, all the hard work that the Kyoka family put in, the faith of everyone who'd pushed me to this point, all of it meant nothing because of him. I slammed my fist down on the desk, a figure falling as I screamed. Damn you, All Might! Everything I did failed. I should have given up when Bakugo has suggested and taken that swan dive. That kind of thinking pulled me from my own head, and I took a deep breath. Okay, so I failed one school. There were more schools that would be accepting students until the end of the school year. I'd shot for the best and missed, but that didn't mean I had to give up. But I hadn't failed because I was bad. I failed because I was popular. Because I was trending. Well, there was still a wave of me going around, and I could ride it. Deep breath, search for almost 20 minutes to find where I'd put the card. And then finally, after I steeled my nerve, I called. Is this Ken Hoshi? I asked as soon as someone picked up, getting my phone call diverted somewhere else. Yellow, who's this? The muffled voice called, and I could feel my heart beating in my throat. This is Izuku Midoriya, the violin kid. The woman you were with said to call if I failed. Well, I'm calling. I spoke, and after a few agonizing seconds of silence, I wondered if he was going to hang up. You didn't fail, kid. You were always meant for more than some boring school. He answered, my nerves relaxing a little at his tone. They said the video of me was too popular for them to make a fair decision and cut me. I told him, even if I didn't know why. Their loss. He paused, and it sounded like he was smoking. Kid, he questioned, and I swallowed nervously. Yes, sir. Are you ready to be a star? Sir, with all due respect, sir, I'm 15. Star. That was a hearty title, and it came with responsibilities I wasn't sure I could handle. But if it meant I could outshine All Might, I'd handle the weight of the world. Which means we have a little time to mold you into shape. If you're not on Gaku Carnival material, no issue. We won't reveal anything about you unless we choose to hire you on, and you can keep applying for those schools. But I think you have what we're looking for. That was a pretty compelling argument, and I didn't have any reason to believe why he would lie. Why would he waste his time with me? Nothing to lose, everything to gain. What choice did I have? I mean, I could go to an average high school and hope I become a musician later. But when would a chance like this happen again? I must have not said anything for longer than I thought because he cleared his throat and spoke again. Well, he questioned, and I knew the answer. Deep breath. I hadn't called to lose this chance. Can I come by today? My first impression of Ongaku Carnival's main lobby was that it was simple, plain even, without any signs of the musicians who may have been signed here before, like the boy bands KP2, B2, or C7, or their solo artists like 𝐀𝐦 𝐍𝐴𝐬 𝐻𝐡𝐚𝐭 or 𝐬𝐻𝐢. Even when I was taking a risk, I had to research and make sure I was taking a calculated risk. I even knew a few songs from some of them and enjoyed their music. How can I help you? A snake lady with blue hair and greenish skin asked from behind a desk I hadn't noticed. Hello. I'm here to meet Mr. 𝐀𝐦. My name is Midoriya Izuku. I told her, awkwardly standing there for a moment as she checked her computer, her fingers clicking and clacking on the keyboard. Unfortunately, I'm not seeing anything in my records. Are you sure you've got the right date? She questioned, a laugh coming from behind me. Don't worry about it, Sazama. He's here at my request. I heard, turning to find Mr. 𝐀𝐦 walking over, dressed in a very nice suit. Now that he wasn't sitting, I could see how tall he was. Should I reschedule your other appointments then, sir? Sazama asked him, and he shook his head. No. Send them up to the studio when they arrive. He ordered, putting a gentle hand between my shoulders and guiding me to an elevator. Oh, I can come back later when you aren't as busy. I offered Mr. 𝐀𝐦, but he waved his hand and chuckled. Son, every day is a busy day in this business. If I couldn't handle it, I wouldn't make a very good producer. He joked, much more jovial than I thought a man with a job like his would be. Then, what exactly is it you want me to do today? Another laugh, and we got into the elevator, pushing the button to the 20th floor. I want to test something, and if you fail, then you go home, apply to more schools, and there's no harm done. He told me, and the anxiety kicked in hard. Whatever he wanted, I could do, though. All I asked was for this chance. Now, it was my turn to prove that I deserved it. Silence fell, and I didn't ask what my test was. All I knew was that I was prepared for it, no matter what he asked of me. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 led me to a room with a big panel of switches and dials, a wall of glass separating us from a woman inside, who was singing a song so beautifully that it made me want to cry. Hold me, whatever lies beyond this morning is a little later on, regardless of warnings. The future doesn't scare me at all, knowings like before. As the song came to a close, the woman inside finally acknowledged Mr. 𝐀𝐦, a strange look on her face before she finally turned to me, almost sad. Great work, Miss 𝐸. I think you've nailed this cover. Why don't you rest up for a bit, and then we'll finish this album. The man at the controls spoke into a mic, the woman inside nodding. 𝐸, as in Masumi 𝐸. I questioned, ashamed that one of the world's biggest musicians had escaped my research into the company. The very same. We bought her contract and are going to take her to levels of stardom beyond what she's already experienced. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 told me, my body stiffening up. That was a serious promise to make anyone, even her. Still, if I wanted to shine brighter than All Might, I'd have to go to even further heights. Then, I hope you're a man of your word, Mr. 𝐀𝐦, because my goal, no, my dream, is to shine so brightly, even All Might pales in comparison to my light. I told him as I lifted my eyes to meet his. If I was going to make it, I'd need my allies to know how high I wanted to fly. Excellent. You've passed this test with flying colors. Now, you can't do what you dream of with just a violin. 𝐸, would you come out here a moment? One more test for our young friend here. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 told me before turning his attention to her, and even without speaking into the mic, she seemed to understand. My nerves calmed, and she walked out. I walked in. I knew exactly what he wanted from me, and it was my time to shine. If you're asking me to sing, then I need something from you. A Strat guitar. A lie. There were moments I sang without it, plenty of them, but never a moment I'd sang alone. Gyro had been there when I was first comfortable enough to sing around others, and every other time I sang, it was because she was there. If she couldn't be here, I needed something else to forget what I was missing. Interesting. Tell me, can you play as you sing then? Mr. 𝐀𝐦 asked into the mic, getting a determined nod. This was no time to assume I couldn't. Get the boy a guitar. I heard him say before the man in the booth ran to grab it for me, coming back with it and an amp. I'll show up everyone, even you, Miss Masumi. I told them, plugging in my equipment and thinking of what I should sing. There was any number of songs that would fit to show off my skills. But then I'd be lacking a song that meant something and showed off my passion for this. I'm ready, I finally told them, making up my mind and strumming once, just to make sure my guitar was ready. It was a confession I'd never give. It was my first performance determining the rest of my life. I guess the time was right for us to say we'd take our time and live our lives together day by day. We'll make a wish and send it on a prayer. We know our dreams can all come true with love that we can share. I sang to them, my hands knowing the notes. I'd heard the song so many times. I knew the song like the back of my hand. With you, I never wonder, will you be there for me? With you, I never wonder. You're the right one for me. I finally found the love of a lifetime, a love to last my whole life through. I finally found the love of a lifetime. God, I'd never say it to her. I could never tell her just what she meant to me. Forever in my heart, I finally found the love of a lifetime. With every kiss, our love is like brand new, and every star up in the sky was made for me. And you still, we both know that the road is long. We know that we will be together because our love is strong. I finally found the love of a lifetime, a love to last my whole life through. I finally found the love of a lifetime. The song was more than just a confession. It was part of our foundation. I'd never even like rock music if she hadn't shown me the beauty it held. Forever in my heart, I finally found the love of a lifetime. I finally found the love of a lifetime. A love to last my whole life through. I finally found the love of a lifetime. Forever in my heart, I finally found the love of a lifetime. Love of a lifetime. I finally found the love of a lifetime. I finally found a love. I finally found the love of a lifetime. Ooh. Forever in my heart, I finally found the love of a lifetime. Ooh. Ooh. And finish. I'd given the best performance I could, and now it was time to learn if I had a future in this business. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 lit a cigarette, taking a deep puff of his cigarette, and he spoke again. I want to sign you to Ongaku Carnival, but since you're a minor, I'll need your mother's permission. Wait, he wanted to sign me? As in, I did it. I was going to be a musician, and all I needed was my mom to come sign. Calmly, weirdly enough, I found the words to speak. I'll call my mom. Stepping out into the hall, I called her, tears of joy falling down my cheeks. It was stupid. Calling Mr. 𝐀𝐦 had been stupid. Coming here had been stupid. And performing in there had been stupid. But it paid off. The ultimate gamble, and I just hit the big time. Hello, dear? She answered, and I tried to say something, but I was crying so hard. Son, what's the matter? My mother asked, worried now, and I wiped my eyes, explaining the situation. Ongaku Carnival wants to sign me. I'm going to be a star, Mom. I just need you to come sign, please. I begged her, listening to silence for a moment before she spoke, gently this time. Is this really what you want, son? She asked me, and I knew why. What parent wanted anything but the best for their child? But still, didn't she know how important this was for me? That, for the first time, I loved something other than heroes. Yes, yeah, it's all I want, because without music, there's nothing else for me in this world. I told her, and I heard her chuckle softly. Okay then. You just wait there, okay? She told me, and I felt like jumping with joy. But what kind of impression would that make towards Mr. 𝐀𝐦? Yes, ma'am. I told her, hanging up and taking a deep breath. This was it. I was going to be signed by a major production company, make music, and one day, I'd outshine the greatest star in the world. As soon as she got there, it clicked how real this was. All of the hard work and faith everyone had put in was being realized. Welcome, Mrs. Midoriya. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 told her, giving her a respectful bow. Thank you for having us. She replied, giving a small bow back. It's a pleasure, genuinely. There's not often the opportunity to support an artist as talented as your son. You must be very proud. He told her as she glanced at me. More than you could ever know. She informed him, my chest swelling up a little with pride at her words. As proud as she was of me, I was just as proud to be her son. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 straightened his tie, and I noticed a skull ring on his middle finger, next to what looked like a wedding band. Why don't we head up to my office? You can take a look at a standard contract, make a few amendments, and we'll argue back and forth until we find an agreement that will suit both our parties. He told her, and I couldn't tell how serious he was being. It seemed playful, but I didn't know. Well, if that's the case, I'd still like to go to high school while I work with this company. I told him, unable to tell what the look in his eyes was. My mom, on the other hand, I could see her look happy with that decision. Just imagine if I didn't make a career out of music and didn't have a backup career planned. Up in his office, I was amazed by how nice it looked. Golden records and merchandise from the company's most famous artist hung up on the walls, and his desk was in front of a window with a beautiful view of the city. May I ask what you saw in my son originally? I've seen the video, and you were drunk when your associate gave him your card. My mother asked, taking a seat in an overstuffed chair in front of the desk. At the time, I'll admit, originally, I wanted to hear him play for my own amusement, and not a thing more. By when he played so skillfully after seeing the music sheet once, he revealed his talent, and while I was drunk, my assistant was not. Your son is here now because of her quick thinking and eye for scouting talent. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 told her, and it made sense. I got lucky then, nothing more. But there are plenty of better artists than me that started careers from less. I see. Well, I have several demands that if they aren't met, I simply cannot let you have any control of my son's future. She told him, and he raised an eyebrow, leaning forward in his chair. First, as he's expressed, he'll be able to go to high school and get as normal experience he can there. Second, compliance with all labor laws and industry standards. Third, I want regular, detailed financial statements and access to financial records to make sure he's being paid fairly and receives a fair percentage of profits from sales, streaming, and other revenue. Fourth, and you listen to me now because I won't repeat this one twice. She told him, and I'd never seen my mother so fierce or bold. But it suited her, Mr. 𝐀𝐦 looking at her without blinking. Clearly, he didn't anticipate her knowing so much of the legal stuff. Neither did I. My approval will be required for any marketing materials or public appearances. You will not make my son into some over-sexualized object. That also means you'll provide reasonable working hours and access to counseling if needed. And will have input and control over the music produced, including song selection, lyrics, and overall artistic direction. She took a breath, and I could see a fire had been lit underneath her now. Finally, a 5-year contract renegotiated every 548 days until it expires. She finished, moving a strain of hair that had fallen out of her eyes. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 nodded, thinking about her demands for a moment before he smiled, laughing heartily. You've got an eye for business. He praised her as he got up and walked to a mini fridge, pulling out 3 cans of cola. I'll have our legal department draft up a contract and mail it to you. Right now, you and 𝐬𝐸 here should be celebrating. From myself and everyone at Ongaku Carnival, welcome to our family. He told us, setting the cans down in front of us. Thank you. I'll be looking for it. She replied with the smile I'd grown up with, the fierceness in her eyes now the same kindness I'd always known them to be. I'm afraid we can't stay any longer. Thank you for your hospitality, but we have to be leaving now. My mom told him, prompting the 3 of us up from our chairs. Of course. Allow me to walk you out. My other appointment should be here now, and I like to greet them at the door. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 told her, and true to his word, he led us down to the lobby. Come by tomorrow if you've got time, Mrs. Midoriya. I'm sure we can hammer out a better contract if you're here. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 smiled, and I decided that he was a pretty decent man now. We'll see. My mother replied, briskly walking out with me right behind her, waving goodbye to both Mr. 𝐀𝐦 and 𝐍𝐴. The way home, I had one question that was burning me up, and I just had to ask my mother. Where did you learn all the corporate legal stuff? I questioned. My mother turned her head, a mix of pride, humor, and something I didn't recognize in her eyes. Who on earth do you think does the negotiating for your father? In the time I'd spent at the studio, my phone had a dozen messages from Gyro. The first few just asked me when I was coming by to share our acceptance letters. But the last few were messages were asking why I wasn't answering, and if I was okay. I'd never ignored a text from her before. If I were her, I'd probably assume the worst. But she was also much better at not overthinking than I was. So why did I look at those messages and freak out a little? Because I knew that one text wasn't enough to tell her everything that had happened. I needed to speak to her in person. Mom, do you think we could make a quick stop before we go home? I requested, even though I'd asked too much from her already lately. To the music store? She inquired, right as always. There's just so much I have to say, and I'm not sure it can wait until tomorrow. When she said nothing, I assumed that meant that no. But as we got to the stop closest to the shop, she gave me an answer. Come home after, okay? Beaming up at her, I was reminded of the pure goodness that was my mother. I'd have to do something extra nice for her to make up for all the stress I'd put her through the last couple of months. I will. Thank you, Mom. The train stopped, and I got off, looking back with a grin. You're the best. She just smiled back, the doors shutting before the train left, wondering how good of a son I really was. The shop wasn't too busy, probably because of how late in the evening it was, the bell announcing my arrival. Well, it's about time you got here. Gyro's in the back working on some school stuff, and man, she's not happy with you. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 told me as soon as I walked in, looking happy that I was in hot water. Yeah, well, I'm not happy with me either, I remarked quietly, knowing this could have been avoided if I had just sent at least one text. The door to the back of the shop was partially open, and I could see her sitting there with a textbook open on the table. Probably so she could keep an eye out if her parents needed help. It also meant that I didn't have time to think of what to say, something I should have at least tried to do before I got here. Hey. Simple, quiet, and not even an apology for ignoring her text all day. But it's all I had. Hey. She repeated back, and I felt like the world's biggest asshole. I'm sorry, I told her, and this felt silly. Why couldn't I just talk to her, explain what had happened? Turning on the stool she was sitting on, she looked at me, pulling a letter from her jacket. You ready? She asked, and I grinned at her, feeling a little anxious as I pulled my own out, handing it to her as I took hers. I knew the good news, but she didn't. Inside the letter was a little disc, moving it aside as I read what was on the paper. She was accepted. You, would make a hero out of her. I never doubted they'd want you. I congratulated her, grinning at her as she looked up at me, sad by the news of my letter. Izuku, I'm sorry. She told me quietly, but all I could do was laugh. I'd failed my exam, but here I was, about to sign with a huge company. Don't apologize. This was the best thing that could have happened to me. I explained before the disc thing turned on, a hologram of All Might telling her she'd gotten into UA, before going on about the program. Ignoring the All Might, she looked worried now as I just grinned wider. What do you mean? She questioned as I looked at her lips moving. God, what was wrong with me? Couldn't I show the slightest bit of self-control? It's all his fault, but don't worry about me. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 offered me a place with Ongaku Carnival. I'm going to be signed to a real record company. I told her excitedly, and the way her eyes lit up from nonchalant to excited, it made my heart feel like it was pounding out of my chest. That thought disgusted me. She was my friend. It didn't matter how I felt. She deserved better than me. I was just some guy, and a crush in middle school wouldn't last forever. That's incredible. She put a hand on my shoulder, her onyx-colored orbs dark and alluring, like a moonless sky. I'm proud of you. That drew me from my own thoughts, my face burning as I smiled back at her. I'm proud of you, too, I told her, but I never doubted she'd get in. That's why I'd spent so much time on her gift. Here, I told her, pulling out a notebook, different from my others, the spine purple, the rest of the cover black. What's this? She asked, taking the book from me. I can't afford to get you anything cool, so I etched dozens of costumes and pieces of gear that would suit you and your quirk. Plus, it's a condensed version of my other notebooks, with common weaknesses to quirks, first aid instructions, and training methods I found online for your quirk. Flipping through the book, she stopped on a page and read part of it before looking up with a smile. This is the single coolest thing anyone's ever done for me. There was so much she'd given me. Time, company, helping me learn all the instruments. But she'd also taught me how to sing, or rather, she'd taught me how to find my voice when I was afraid of being really heard. Do you want to hang out sometime? I blurted, my face burning as I tried to gather myself a little bit. We hang together all the time, she told me, and I bit my tongue to keep from saying something revealing. This was stupid. We were friends, nothing else. So why did I want to know how she felt about me, too? What about Asujin Osaka? I'll pay, and we can just pretend like everything isn't changing, just for a day. I begged, and suddenly I realized how pathetic I must have looked. Sighing lightly, she seemed irritated, even though I knew her well enough to know she was just putting up her walls. Well, I'm kinda busy with school. Can it wait until summer break? Whatever little part of me that was still sensible nodded, overjoyed to be going with her outside of lessons. She wanted to go, I think, which meant she must have thought of me as a friend. Oh, while I'm here, that Denden Mai Jin Strat. The one with... I didn't get to finish my sentence. J.ro doing her best, admittedly good, impression of me. With the green star on the body. That's the one. She rolled her eyes and pointed towards the counter, where it had sat for years now. It wasn't rare or even expensive compared to other models, but for some reason, it had sat there for nearly half of my life. I've finally sold enough merch to buy it, so it doesn't have to sit there, looking pathetic anymore. I told her, a little proud. My All Might merchandise had really been selling lately, especially to someone called 𝐀𝐦. He'd bought so much I shuddered to think about the greasy All Might fan he was behind the screen, and ignored the fact that I used to be that crazy for any hero. I always thought it was kind of like you. Its appeal was limited, but it's super well liked by those who use it. She told me, and my face turned red. Surely she wasn't flirting. But if she was, should I push it? Would she get mad? Thank you. My confidence really needed that. I joked, ignoring what else it could mean. If I misread a signal, then I could ruin our friendship. A jack to the back of my head set me straight, J.ro crossing her arms. Don't get such a big head. Your body won't be able to handle it. Rolling my eyes, I turned away, mostly so she wouldn't see me smile. As long as we were friends, how could I ever get an ego? Glancing at J.ro, then quickly looking away again, my hands felt sweaty. Hey, J.ro, I really admire you. My face turned red, but I turned back with a smile. You're amazing. I can't wait until the world really sees what we're made of. I told her, seeing her look at me with a deadpan expression, used to this kind of nervous behavior from me. I'm going to buy that guitar now. I told her, moving towards the counter and hoping that I hadn't been too weird. Mr. 𝐀𝐦 looked up from the counter as I approached. Finally decided to get it, huh? He asked with a grin, reaching for the 𝐷𝐷𝐷 𝐍𝐵𝐭. Yeah, I replied, my voice cracking a little. It's time. He rang up the guitar, nodding like a teacher when you got an answer right. Good choice, kid. It really suits you. Smiling up at him, I handed over the money, plus enough for the rest of the gear I'd need with it. Thanks, Mr. 𝐀𝐦. The rest of it can be shipped, but I had to have this. I told him, eagerly taking the instrument and feeling it in my hands for the first time. Keep your eyes on the news. I'm gonna rock this world to its core. I told him, and for one brief moment, I felt like nothing could go wrong. Once I admitted I needed the case to take it home, I said my goodbyes to the people who'd helped me on this path, heading back to the apartment my mother had built with love. Putting the guitar in my room, I walked back out to the hall, calling out to my mother. I'm home. The TV was playing when I heard her. I'm in the kitchen, son, Mom called back, and I went to go help with dinner, the table covered in papers. What is all that junk? I asked her, washing my hands before I helped her cut some peppers and onions. That junk is the first draft of your contract. She informed me, and I had to admit, my mother did not waste time. Thank you. I told her, and once more, I knew I had to figure out a way to make up for all the trouble this caused. The next week was relentless, full of contract revisions, studying for my middle school final, and trying to keep on top of my music lessons. But nothing compared to the stress of trying to figure out where I wanted to go for high school. 𝐶𝐻 has a music program. The music producer suggested, and for some reason, I didn't like that idea either. Shaking my head, I looked through the list of schools that were still had exams, thinking of what I wanted, and coming up short. No. That doesn't feel right either. I'm already good at the instruments I play, and besides, I could just pay my current teachers to continue. One name stood out, and I stopped scrolling to look at it. U.A. The highest goal any student could shoot for, regardless of their classes. Support course, U.A. High school. And look, the exam is the day before 𝐶𝐻 has their music course exam. If I fail, I have someone to fall back on. I told them, pulling it up on the monitor and watching as my mother and Mr. 𝐀𝐦 exchanged confused looks. Son, are you sure? She questioned, and Mr. 𝐀𝐦 clasped his hands and looked at me. And pray tell, how does music translate into making gear for heroes? Grinning up at him, I tilted my head a little, acting confused. It doesn't. But I've spent my entire life researching how I could be a hero. I know every piece of publicly released gear inside and out. And if I fail, what's the harm? I told him, happy with my choice. Besides, according to the contract, he only had to pay for the first school I tried out for. If I failed the exam, I would pay if I wanted to go to another school. Weighing the options, he waved his hand, and an assistant took the tablet from me. "Consider your exam spot ready," he told me, and my grin turned to a laugh. 2 days and 1 written exam later, I was in a workshop, the excavation hero powerloader standing there in front of a group of hopeful students. "You have 3 hours to build any gear you can. Remember, you'll be judged based on how safe the gear is, how original it is, and how well built it is. In other words, quality over quantity," the hero explained, a girl with pink dreads raising her hand to ask a question. "But doesn't that detract from what inventing is about? Preserving through our mistakes. How can we be judged on the first draft when it's the 100th that could change the world?" "Excellent question. You may start now," Powerloader told us, not answering the girl. She did have a point, though. I knew exactly what I wanted to build, and with the resources had, I knew I could do it. It was an original design I'd been working on for gyro, using sound to create protective barriers, but it was untested and not even out of the developmental stage. But I could also build what I knew would be easy. There was a multi-tool wristband that was fairly simple and could be improved upon, making it more useful than the original. Whatever I did, it started with the basics, getting tools and material before I looked at how little of each there was. To build my sound gear, I'd need to take resources from other students. But if I built the wristband, it might not measure up to as standards. "Hey, can I borrow that hammer?" the girl with pink hair asked, and I handed it to her, looking over as she built what looked like a sound amplification device. The kind that would make my sound gear more powerful. An idea formed. She was by far the most well-prepared person here. Maybe I could form a truce of some sort. "Hey, I'm Midoriya, and I can see you're skilled. So am I. Let's team up and build something so amazing that even Powerloader will be impressed," I suggested, and she shook her head. "No, thank you," she told me, so engrossed in her work. I was surprised she even heard me. "I can see you're building a sound amplifier. I'm building a sound-based piece of gear that can form shields. You have to see that there's not enough for either if we hoard resources." It seemed like she heard that, and her hands stopped working as she looked at me and then to her own work. "Are you absolutely certain it'll work?" she asked me, and I was left with a choice. Tell the truth or a lie. If I said yes, it gave me my best shot at working with her. That alone gave me my answer, my head shaking slowly. "Not entirely. It's untested." I expected her to tell me to buzz off or something, but instead, she grinned and waved me over next to her. "I'm 𝐻𝐡𝐬, but you can call me May," she told me, and I smiled back, a little unsure of her now. "Okay, May, are you ready to blow the world away?" I asked, taking a piece of paper and sketching the design I'd made in my notebook, May explaining her quirk, zoom, to me. "Up to 5 kilometers, huh? That's impressive," I complimented, using a soldering iron for the first time in my life, and praying it didn't blow me or her up. It seemed like only minutes had passed when Powerloader told us we had 10 minutes left, and we put the final touches on our piece. If this failed, I failed and dragged 𝐻𝐡𝐬 with me. "Clearly label your and all blueprints you used. You'll receive your results in a few days," Powerloader explained, and I made a label with both mine and 𝐻𝐡𝐬's name on it. Outside, I turned to 𝐻𝐡𝐬 and bowed. "Thank you." "You're welcome, even though we'd both have failed if we hadn't worked together," she told me, now much louder than she'd been working on our piece. "We might still. There wasn't time to test it," I reminded her, but she shook her head. "You, would be stupid to not at least accept me. I don't know about you, though," she told me, and I sunk a little. "Yeah. Well, if I don't, it was nice to meet you," I told her, heading home to spend the next few days being anxious about my results. The letter coming in while I was at school. A disc thing like gyro had fallen on my deck when I opened it. A hologram of Powerloader appeared, frozen for a second before he spoke. "Hello. If you haven't already read your letter, then let me be the first to congratulate you on your acceptance into 𝐸 high school's support course," he told me, and I felt my anxiety wash away. Thank God. I was tired of taking exams. "You were graded on several things, including resource and time management, ingenuity, originality, and of course, your gear itself. However, you and Miss 𝐻𝐡𝐬 stumbled upon our secret grading system, boosting you both into the first and second position, with 𝐻𝐡𝐬 coming in first. You see, the collaborative teamwork you exhibited is essential for anyone in the support course, and because of that, I'm proud to announce to you, Midoriya Izuku, that you are a part of Class 1H. The hologram turned off, and I leaned back in my chair, grinning like an idiot. It was an easy class I could do well in, and if my musical career failed, I could fall back on. It was like my life was perfect. And even with the struggles I knew I'd come across, I was excited for the future. What an idiot I was. The next few days weren't too bad, finally ending the middle school chapter of my life for the brief week of summer. Even if it was a cloudy day, the tickets for the US were already bought, and the train ride into Osaka ended up being so peaceful. I'd fought hard to get today away from the studio, since I only had a week away before the school year, but it was promised to 𝐍𝐲 first. Harry Potter, Nintendo, Demon Slayer, One Piece. All of these famous IP had rides and foods, my favorite being the wizarding world of Harry Potter, especially the Forbidden Journey attraction. Something about seeing a magical world that I cherished as a kid in 3D was just so cool. I think I need to sit down a minute. I mumbled, sick to my stomach, even though the attraction had been so engaging, or maybe because it was. 𝐍𝐲 laughed softly, and the feeling of my stomach turning inside out became butterflies. At this point, I was well aware of my crush, and how to avoid it for the sake of our friendship. Besides, I kind of liked the butterfly feeling. That's kinda sad. She teased lightly as I took a few 𝗵𝗃𝗃 pills. In no way, shape, form, or fashion would I puke in front of 𝐍𝐲. Once I was good to go again, we spent the better part of 2 hours just exploring the park, looking at items in the shops, and taking photos with the mascots in their costumes. The Three Broomsticks restaurant was a good place for lunch before going to ride some of the Jurassic Park rides. A few more 𝗵𝗃𝗃 pills enough to keep me going, while we spent one last glorious day of freedom together. Until it started to rain at least, the two of us calling it a day and heading to the train station. Today had been everything I expected, and then some, even if it wasn't everything I dreamed. My dreams with 𝐍𝐲 weren't spent in crowded parks. This was fun. Thanks for agreeing to come with me, I told her, waiting under an awning as the rain came down heavy now, the train still 10 minutes from us. Thanks for inviting me out, although it's the least you could do since I'm your friend. She teased lightly, playing with her ear jack. It was a cute little habit she had. I'm going to be really busy after school and on the weekends now, so I wanted to spend one day with my best friend and have memories I could hold on to. Keep me humble when I'm a famous music icon and all that, I admitted, even though I covered myself with a joke. So you got into a school, which one? She questioned me, but I waved my hand and leaned back against the rail of awning. Nowhere fancy. I'm just taking a couple of classes in case the whole music thing doesn't work out. It was a lie, but only because I wanted to surprise her and see her face when we both got off the train to go to UA together. I'd have to figure out how to hide my uniform, but I'd figure it out. 𝐍𝐲 looked away, off to where the train tracks disappeared in the distance. So, this is the last time we'll see each other for some time. How did I answer that without outright lying a second time? I'll always find time for you if you need me, I finally told her, my voice squeaking a little as I looked off in the same direction. The both of us going quiet until after we were on the train. As we got closer to my stop, I felt a pit in my stomach, anxiety and fear, mixing with something else entirely, leaving my palms sweaty and heart beating faster the closer I got to departing. Thank you, I told her softly, my stop in sight. For what? She questioned, looking over at me. For being the muse that motivates me. Standing next to the door, I smiled as I got off, disappearing into the crowd and heading back home. It wasn't a confession, but it was closer than I ever thought I'd get. The next few days were all work, spending as much time as I was legally allowed inside of a recording booth or learning how to dance. I knew beforehand how much work would be involved, but I didn't know how much of it was going to be physical. Oh, well, if I wanted to outshine heroes, I needed to look better than them anyway. Under the lights when everything goes nowhere to hide, when I'm getting you clothes when we move. Well, you already know, so just imagine. Just imagine. Just imagine nothing I can see, but you when you dance, dance, dance feeling good, good, creeping up on you, so just dance, dance, dance. Come on, all those things I shouldn't do, but you dance, dance, dance. And ain't nobody leaving soon, so keep dancing. I sang, wondering how the company had a song that matched my range already. Then again, it could have just been a song that another artist turned down. Not that I was complaining. The sooner I could produce a song, the sooner I could build hype for a full album. As soon as I was done recording, it was back to the dance studio, learning the moves that they'd choreographed. At least I was getting into shape. A well-balanced meal plan helping me build mass I didn't have. Finally, the day before my first day of high school, the song dropped online and on streaming. No announcement or advertising, just put out for the world to grasp onto. At the release party, which was just regular lunch, but I got to have some dessert, Mr. 𝐀𝐦 approached me. "Okay, kid, we've made you a social media page that's been hinting that you're going to drop something. And now you just need to record a video telling your followers to listen and share it." Social media. When had they gotten it for me? And followers? Already? All my exposure came from a video I didn't know was recorded of me. Okay. So I just need to ask them to check it out and share it, I questioned, a phone being put in place in front of me. "Whenever you're ready," he told me, and I could see my mother looking over, keeping an eye on the situation. Taking a deep breath, I made sure my face looked okay. "I'm ready." As soon as the camera started recording, I smiled. "Hey, Midoriya Izuku here. We've just dropped my very first single." Picking up the phone, I made sure to include the crew who helped put it all together so quickly. You can listen to it on all major streaming platforms, and of course, watch the music video on YouTube. Please like and share, and let's make sure that my crew and I can keep making music for you all. After winking into the camera cut, and then they made me re-record it a few more times until it was perfect. A brunette woman walking over to me. "Hi, I'm 𝐬𝐬, and I'm gonna be your social media manager. Before you post anything, it goes through me first. And yes, I'll be posting updates for your pages," she told me, but I was already tuned out, just thinking about the direction I wanted my music to go. "Mr. 𝐀𝐦, sir, I'm grateful for the chance to make any music, but I want to make my music more personal from now on. Something that will resonate with people on a more personal basis. Not every song on an album has to be that. I don't mind making a catchy song just to cash in on. But in 30 years, I want my music to be considered a classic," I told the man with my career in his hand, watching his eyebrow raise the more I spoke, until he guffawed at me, all eyes on us. "Albums? You're a bit ahead of yourself," he told me, looking at me with a strange look. But I had things to say, and now I had an outlet to say it. "Yes, sir, I am. And that's where I plan to stay," I told him, grinning up at him and getting a hearty laugh in return. "We'll work out your next hit later. You should be relaxing and enjoying this moment. You've earned it," he told me, patting my shoulder before his phone rang, and he left to handle his business. The rest of the day was spent at home, making sure I was ready for school tomorrow and texting 𝐺𝑖RO as much as I could. That night, I remember looking up at the moon, just a sliver in the sky, the light of the stars almost hiding it from view. Stars shined bright, but I would make even the moon pale in comparison. Waking up to my alarm, I got ready for the day, my uniform on under a pair of baggy jogging pants and a hooded jacket. "I'm leaving, Mom. See you later," I called, eating the fancy breakfast bar the company gave me. Counting calories was easier when exactly how many calories was inside something. What I was prepared for was a quiet day, maybe a little exciting later at school, but other than that, nothing too big. What I wasn't prepared for was for people to recognize me, both as Violin Kid and from the music video. It was weird to think I had fans already. So far, it seemed like I was hardly doing anything. Taking the train early, I got off in time to wait for 𝐺𝑖RO at the train station. I could at least pretend that we weren't going to the same school for a little while longer. "Midoriya, what are you doing here?" 𝐺𝑖RO questioned once she saw me, and all I could do was grin at her. She was dressed in the same uniform I was, but she managed to actually tie her tie properly. "We go the same way, until a point," I explained, not the whole truth, but at least it wasn't a lie. "So we'll see each other every morning." She smiled back, punching me in the arm. "You made me think we weren't going to see each other at all." "Sorry, I didn't realize we could take the same train." One ride later, and it was our stop, getting off with her and getting a confused look as I did. "What are you doing?" "Going to my class, as part of 1H in the support course. It's my turn to support you," I told her, taking off my jacket and shoving it in my bag. For now, I was stuck in my jogging pants. 𝐺𝑖RO fiddled with the cord of her earphone jacks, glancing sideways at me. "You know, Midoriya, you've got this really inspiring way of never giving up. It's, kinda cool." I felt my cheeks heat up slightly at her praise, quickly looking away and hoping she didn't notice. Regaining feeling in my brain, we kept walking in silence, but I didn't feel like there was anything that needed to be said. I'll see you at lunch. If you want to. If not, I get it. We're not like obligated to eat lunch together. I stumbled through my words, feeling like an idiot. Great. I hope the rest of my teen years weren't spent being this awkward. Yeah, I guess if you sit by me, she replied. And as we flashed our IDs to the scanner, it really kicked in how real this was. I'd joined a whole course mainly focused on engineering just to support her. God, was this really just a crush at this point? The halls were normal, a little bit of a disappointment. But I suppose after years of expectations for this place, I held my own a little too high. It was still a high school at the end of the day. This is your classroom. I noticed, and I didn't want to say goodbye, not yet. Yeah. Don't forget to find me at lunch, okay? She told me, her jack lifting my chin up as she looked at me, an amused kind of look in her eyes. If you make it any more obvious, other people are going to notice. Obvious? Me? Did she know how I felt? Did she feel the same way if she did? What did that mean? Wah? I tried to ask, but she left me in the hall, questioning everything while students moved past me until a girl with brown hair shook me from my thoughts. Hey, you okay, guy? She asked, but I shuffled off to my own class, confused and in my own little world as I found my seat, power loader standing in front of the class. Welcome to the support course, first years. I'm your homeroom teacher, power loader. Today is going to be a bit slow. First, we'll be attending the assembly for a few words from the principal, and then a brief tour of the support workshop. The hero explained, giving us all a chance to talk with one another. Midoriya, you're here. I heard as a pink dread flopped in my face, and Hatsune got way too close to me, and my personal space. Huh? Oh, Hatsune. Yeah, I made it, thanks to you. I answered, pushing the thoughts away. They couldn't burden me if I wanted to be there for 𝐍𝐸. Whatever she knew or felt, I was here to support her. All right, line up and make your way to the assembly. Follow the second years. Power loader instructed, leaving us to our own devices for now. Hey, you're Midoriya Izuku, right? A girl with red glossy skin that shined a little. Oh, yeah, that's what my student ID says. I joked, offering a smile and cringing a little as she squealed. Can I get a picture? She asked. And I remembered that I was technically famous now. But seriously, my song couldn't be that popular yet. Sure. But what's your name? I'm Keitaku Akatsuya. She introduced herself, and as I moved in for the picture, I put up my fingers for a peace sign. Hi, Chizu. And once the picture was taken, I rubbed my neck. Man, that was weird. And I'd have to do that a lot more if I was going to be more popular than All Might. 𝐻𝐻𝐸, look at the big star. You're a one-hit wonder, and when people forget about you, you'll just be another greased jockey like the rest of us. A large, muscular boy with hands that were so small, I couldn't help but laugh at the comparison between the rest of him, as the class followed 2H out into the hall. You're just upset because of that old saying. You know, the one about having small hands, and it meaning you have something else that's small. I replied, a master of backsass. I'd learned from Bakugo and 𝐍𝐸, and there was no way I was letting some random dude bully me. Sputtering, he looked like he wanted to say something, but he shut his mouth and followed behind another of our classmates. The assembly was held in a huge gymnasium, and I didn't notice 𝐍𝐸 anywhere, a whole section missing. UA was a little more free with their academics than most schools, but surely one would show up for this. A small mouse or small bear creature in a suit climbed up the present Mike's leg, up onto the podium, and I guessed one had more important things to do than come to an assembly. Greetings, esteemed staff and students. For those of you who don't know, I am Principal Nezu, and it's my honor to welcome you all to a new and promising school year. We've all gathered here to help you embark on a journey of self-discovery, growth, and discovery. Every single one of you brings something new and unique to the table, and we're proud to help you reach your aspirations and to help guide you to new heights. Pausing, he looked around, pride shining on his cute little face. Third years, help your underclassmen. First years, learn all you can from your upperclassmen. Second years, you're in such a unique position to both learn and impart knowledge. He looked at each class, and for a brief second, I met his eyes, intelligence practically overflowing from him. So this year, embrace every challenge with courage, support one another with kindness, and finally, pursue excellence in every endeavor you face. So I welcome you once again to UA, where your potential is limitless, and the future is yours to shape. Applause for his speech, but he didn't move, and as the clapping died down, he spoke. What else could he possibly have to say? Now, I know we're all anxious for the first day of class, but before we disassemble, I'd like to announce a new faculty member joining us. You may have heard rumors, and yes, they were true. Please welcome 𝐀𝐦 as our new Foundational Hero Studies instructor. The man himself leaped down from the ceiling where it seemed like he'd been waiting. And this time, the applause was deafening. But all I felt was contempt. One dream was crushed, and the other was detoured by his actions. Why should I cheer for someone like him? Like Nezu, he looked at the students in all the different courses. And like our principal, his eyes met mine. The difference between the two was that instead of warmth and his overwhelming intelligence, all I felt from 𝐀𝐻 was pity. It was obvious he recognized me, but all I could feel for the man was anger and contempt, glaring into his blue eyes and sneering. He didn't deserve the praise they gave him, and as the applause and cheering slowly stopped, he continued to glance in my direction. The great big oaf had probably never had anyone hate him before, and as the assembly ended, I felt a large hand on my shoulder. Young Midoriya, perhaps we should have a talk. A talk? Did he think he could smooth things over with a simple talk? If he did, then he was an absolute imbecile, unlikely since he'd been shown to be keen and intelligent. Either way, even in my anger, I had to admit I was curious to know what he had to say. That, and openly hating the #1 hero wouldn't do me any favors online. Putting on a big smile, I turned to look at the #1 hero. What's it been 𝐀𝐻? 9 months. 10. I'll have to let Powerloader Sensei know, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Giving me a smile in return, he waved his hand. Don't worry, I've already gotten permission, but still, we shouldn't wait around too long. Leading me along, there were plenty of looks and whispering from the students. Between 𝐀𝐻's status as the #1 hero and my own newfound popularity, it had to look a bit strange. Still smiling, I was the first to step into the teacher's lounge. I'll admit, not bad. Of course, you'd think a teacher's lounge at UA would at least have a vending machine. I joked, the door closing and my smile falling. Finally. Gotta say, I wasn't sure you'd agree to meet after last time. 𝐀𝐻 spoke, his voice different, like it had been once before. Skinny now, are you? I asked him, heading for the window to close the blinds. Everymen had their secrets, and I planned to defeat 𝐀𝐻 without resorting to exposing him. Yes, I am. This is my true form. When I'm not using my quirk, this is what I look like. Great. This is what I look like when I'm not using my quirk. I replied sarcastically, taking a seat and deciding this time to hear out the hero. Clearing his throat, he seemed a little uncomfortable. Normally, I wouldn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. This time, however, I was enjoying it. Well, yes, I suppose so. He sputtered, taking a handkerchief out of his pocket and coughing blood into it. He had my curiosity, and now he had my interest. As I watched, it was strange how unfeeling I could be for another human being. That's new. I don't remember that happening last time we spoke. I told him as I helped myself to the tin of cookies on the table. My diet, while counted to every calorie, left me hungry all the time. It wouldn't hurt to cheat on it a bit. No, the conversation ended much quicker than anticipated. 𝐀𝐻 agreed, and I put the tin down, a few cookies left out for me. So is this business or pleasure? Either way, I'd like to hurry this up. I told him, looking like I'd heard him as I ate, a slight bump coming from the door. I was wrong. You should know that. Your spirit rivals that of the best heroes. He told me, unable to meet my eyes like the coward he was. Maybe it did, but you broke my spirit. What was left was turned to spite for you and the pain you've caused me. I lost my hopes at heroism, and when you ruined my chances at getting into a prestigious music school, I had to sell out. Now you bring up old pains. I had hoped you of all people would bury the past, but to my shock, you continue digging at the gaping hole that held my dearest dreams. What a cruel man you are. I replied as my anger built, and I could feel it build into hurt, tears overflowing. It would seem that no matter what I intended, you were hurt in the process. For that, I am truly sorry, boy. Somehow, and I faltered, trying not to sob from the anger. Somehow, your sorry doesn't account for not saving me when I needed you. I told him, my voice cracking as I stood and moved to the door, opening it to find a few of the more bold students eavesdropping on our conversation before I walked past them, spotting a phone in one of their hands. Well, I wasn't going to expose him. But if someone else did, what did I care? I couldn't buy the kind of publicity that would make me shine and smear him as this would. Of course, I just needed to keep crying a bit longer, and then I could wipe my tears in a bathroom and come out with a big smile. Pretend I hadn't until whatever they recorded went viral. Once I was back in class, I apologized to 𝗃𝗧𝗏 and quickly fell in line for the workshop tour. Of course, being UA, it was even more impressive than the one they provided for our exams. When can we start working? 𝐻𝐡𝐚 asked 𝗃𝗧𝗏, the hero looking at her for a moment before gesturing towards the machinery. You may work in here as long as you have a staff member present. Luckily, most of the staff here hardly sleep or go home anyway. You'll find plenty who'll sleep or do paperwork while you create the gear of tomorrow. And since it's the first day, I'll allow you to get used to the space and figure out where everything is. If you find time to work, more power to you. Our teacher told us, and like children let loose in a candy store, most of my class ran off. For my part, I had plenty of designs in my notebook, some of them practical, some of them I wanted to bring to life just to see what would happen. But today was a good day to show up tiny hands, so I got to work on something practical. A staff that would help focus the energy of electrical-based quirks, since many people couldn't control where their electricity went. Able to channel and direct the electricity in precise bolts, the staff would also come equipped an adjustable length, able to be used in 2 pieces as eskrima sticks, and finally, a focusing mechanism that would make aiming at targets easier. Of course, I had to put a piece of myself into engraving a small green star at the bottom of the staff. Anyone who used this would have plenty of options, even if they'd need to practice extensively to use it effectively. But it would prove to be a good weapon for offensive and defensive purposes. It took all day, but I had the time to work. Our normal classes would start tomorrow, but for now, I was content to spend the time just building and chatting with 𝐻𝐡𝐚. Adding more heat-resistant materials would help with the overheating issue you're having. I recommend silicon carbide or alumina, but an exhaust port may also help. I told her, handing her a small wrench that was only a bit bigger than my pinky. See, this is why I'm going to keep you around. You give me the simple solutions I forget about. 𝐻𝐡𝐚 told me, and as much as I wanted her to be joking, she'd proven to not mince words or joke. Right. I'd hate for you to miss an easy solution. Once lunch rolled around, I was covered in grease, already down to just my undershirt and a pair of sweatpants. There was no need to destroy all of my good clothes. You look like crap, I heard, turning to find Gyro and a tall girl with long black hair waiting in line, a guy with red spiky hair in between us. You shouldn't say things like that, the tall girl told her while I let the guy go in front of me. Giving a smile, I offered my hand out to the girl. Hello, I'm Midoriya Izuku, Class 1H. The girl took my hand and introduced herself. Yaoyorozu Momo. For a moment, I was silent, not sure of what to say. I hadn't had to meet any of Gyro's other friends before. Come on, say something, Rockstar. Otherwise, she'll think you're some kind of basket case. Gyro whispered loudly, getting 2 sets of eyes rolled at her. But I am a basket case, I replied, grinning while a pink girl came over, interrupting the moment. Oh boy, was every fangirl going to look at me like I was a puppy. You're Midoriya, right? She asked, meaning her hearing was either amazing or she recognized me. Absolutely I am. What can I do you for? Love? Picture? Autograph? Or both? I questioned, switching personalities on the fly. It was like acting was just part of music. Yes, she replied quietly, and I moved to the left side of her, my right hand held out in a peace sign, my left on my hip. Cool. Now, it's picture time, I told her, and after a second, she pulled her phone out and snapped a selfie. Perfect. Thanks for wanting a picture. I'm always happy to meet fans, I told her, moving back over to my friends. Gyro just looked at me, an eyebrow raised, but she didn't say anything. Sorry about that, where were we? I asked before remembering. Oh yes, labels. I'm a basket case with issues. Gyro is a living Walkman, and, well, I'm not sure about you, Yaoyorozu, but you're radiating generational wealth vibes, I told them as the 3 of us finally got to the front of the line. Well, my parents are heroes, so I suppose my family is a bit more comfortable than most. How'd you guess that from just a glance? Gyro asked, getting a laugh from me. Okay, I'll admit I've seen Yaoyorozu here at the studio before, taking a tour with Masumi Seo, I told her, laughing again before I got my food. You guessed her parents' wealth from spotting her on a tour of the studio. That's impressive. It's not a very risky guess. I mean, if you can afford to hang out with an international pop star, you might be well off. Finding a place to sit, I listened to 𝐍𝐼 describe her day. A grueling challenge where the person who came in last would lose. Who could be so heartless? Then again, it was you. Well, you. Does tend to play fast and loose with rules and students. Just try not to get hurt. I advised, getting poked in the side with a jack. Someone might think you care. She teased, and I shrugged in return. We both know I do, I replied, taking a sip of my drink. You're supposed to deny it? Why? It's more fun if you do. Was it? I didn't know about her, but for me, it just wasn't. This isn't some slow burn fanfiction written by some chronically online weirdos. I couldn't deny caring about you, even if it meant the end of the world. The words left me before I could even think, and I found myself uncaring even when I could think. Oh, I heard before the bell rang, and I got up and took my dishes, heading back to class to spend the rest of my day testing gear and bouncing ideas off of 𝐻𝐡𝐚𝐭. The end of the day was welcome, making sure my tools and gear were put away before going to go meet with 𝐍𝐼 at her classroom, since it was significantly closer to the front than my own. A minor perk of the hero course, I suppose, or main it was just how it was put together when they built the school years ago. Hey, you ready? I called with a wave and a smile. She looked up from her phone, just as a text notification hit mine. You gonna get that? She asked. Why? What is it? Just check. Rolling my eyes, I checked the text, just seeing her ask where I was. I don't know. Where are any of us? I replied, putting my hands in my pockets. You're stupid, she told me, but I heard the mirth in her words. Yeah. Once we said our goodbyes at her stop, I took the train towards the studio. Man, at this point, I should just get an apartment somewhere between both and live there while I go to school. Walking down the streets of Tokyo, I was having a nice walk. Sure, I had to stop and take a picture here and there, but for the most part, I had no problems getting through the crowds. Hey, could I get a picture? Someone with a raspy voice asked from an alley, just standing there with his hood up and blue hair covering his face. Yeah, sure, I told him, getting close and getting a hand put on my neck. Must be a gag photo. If I put all 5 fingers on your neck, you'll turn to dust before you can scream. Act natural. The commanded, and I assumed now from their voice it was a man. Why, yeah, I stuttered as he led me into the alley, until it seemed like seams separated the alley from the inside of what looked like a bar, a portal closing. Midoriya Izuku. I heard, chills going up my spine as a screen came on, and a face in the darkness spoke. I'd like to make you an offer. For a second, I was paralyzed by fear, but if I was going to be killed, I'd have been already. But I couldn't let them know I knew that yet. Let me guess, you want me to play for your daughter's birthday? I joked as I took a seat at the bar. Give me a Shirley Temple mate, and maybe a snack. Being an icon means starving all the time. I told the person working the bar, his body a cloudy, almost mist-like blackness. Hey, who do you think you are? Ignoring master? The hooded man asked, and now that I could see his face, his skin was dry and irritated. Midoriya Izuku? Who are you? I replied, keeping up my act as I spun around on my bar stool. Why, you little, he growled before lunging at me, his fingers an inch from my face before the man on the screen spoke up. Tamura, enough, he is our honored guest, and it would be such a shame to lose such an important tool in taking down All Might. At his words, I turned my head. Forget the act. He had my attention fully. Taking down that false god of a hero, tell me more. I begged, and a chuckle came from the screen, but I heard no mirth. Taking him down. Killing the #1 hero. The man told me, and I hesitated a bit. Killing, not humiliating. Then I remembered the moments he'd intervened in my life, ruining me. What makes you think I'm willing to help you do something like that? I questioned, the bartender delivering my drink. Because you are trending across the world, as the boy who All Might hurt. It's a scandal that he's never faced. He told me, and I smiled. Hurt? All Might broke my spirit, I yelled, clenching my fist and slamming them on the counter, jumping up and making my stool fall. All Might destroyed my dreams of being a hero. He ruined my chance at putting my musical skills to the test and have a chance to build the life I wanted, I screamed, grabbing my drink and downing it before throwing the empty cup at the wall behind the bartender, hitting a bottle of alcohol and breaking both. If you know how to kill him, I want in. I want to watch. I told them, more calm now as I stood there, breathing heavily and adjusting my tie. Excellent. Then you must do everything I command. Can you pledge yourself, your soul, to the League of Villains? The man on the screen asked, and I didn't need to think now. I'm quirkless. I have no power. My money is locked up until I'm an adult, and I'm in high school. What could you want from me? I asked, looking at the screen and wondering what kind of man had the power to kill All Might. I want your anger, your voice, your charisma. I want you to spy on the heroes of the next generation and inform me of any potential threats or recruits. In return, I will give you what you seek, a quirk, or perhaps multiple. He offered, and I scoffed now. I should have known he was pulling my leg. Where's the camera, huh? I get it. You've got me in a corner, and now my career is over. Well, at least show me the camera so I can smile at it. I told them, and the man on the screen went silent for a moment. 𝐀𝐦, bring our guest to me. He spoke before a portal opened under my feet, dropping me into what could only be described as cyber hell. There were monitors everywhere, wires leading from one end to the other, making the entire place clustered and claustrophobic. But worse than that was a man sitting there disfigured and hooked up to multiple machines, and for the first time in my life, I knew true fear. He had no nose, no eyes, just a mouth twisted into a wicked smile, with scars covering his bald head, a medical mask over his mouth, although how it was staying on his face, since he had no ears, I didn't know. Getting off the floor, I backed away. God, this wasn't a game. This wasn't funny. I was going to die here, I knew it. Do not be afraid. I know my appearance is a bit off-putting, but I mean you no harm. The man spoke, and I realized he was the man from the screens, his tone not negative, but like someone trying to mimic human warmth. I don't believe that. I can't. But I've got no other choice but to believe you. I replied, my voice cracking as I shook against my will. No, I suppose you don't. Come closer, boy. He told me as his tone shifted, becoming demanding. My feet moved before I could even think about saying no, moving next to him. You seek to destroy heroes, false gods, don't you? With this power, you will be their absolution. You will be my doom. He told me, putting a hand on my arm. Can you do one more thing? If you're so powerful, can you make me fearless? I questioned. And for a moment, he looked at me, confused, before he smiled at me. Why would you want that? He asked, and I swallowed back my fear. So I won't hesitate to do what's needed of me, I answered, and he laughed before a pain greater than anything I'd ever felt before started across my body. A silent scream, all I could muster as it ended as abruptly as it had started, and I fell to the ground, breathing heavily. Still awake. That's very impressive for someone who has been gifted 2 quirks, he told me, as my eyes shut as I lay there, too weak to keep them open. If you survive the process, I look forward to working with you, 𝐷𝗵𝗏. He told me before I blacked out, his laugh the last thing I heard. When I woke up, I was in a bed that wasn't mine, the room dimly lit as I sat up, feeling in Roman 4 pulling in my arm. A hospital. Had the whole thing been a dream? Was I dreaming now? Whatever it was, I made a list of things I did know. I'm 𝐷𝗵𝗏, 15. Today was April 8th, and the last thing that happened was. Could it be true? Am I powerful now? I asked myself, holding out my hands and hoping something would happen. But nothing did. Must have been part of my dream. I decided when nothing happened, pulling the Roman 4 from my arm and pulling the curtain around my bed down. Oh my, you shouldn't be out of bed. Come now, dear, rest. Recovery girl, 𝐻𝐸 very own nurse, told me, and I wondered what she was doing here. Didn't she have a whole school to fix? What happened? I asked, and she smacked my leg with her cane. Bed? She told me, and I opened my mouth to argue, but she threw candy in it. Fine. But what happened? I questioned again as she looked at the Roman 4 I'd pulled out and sighing. That's what we're trying to understand as well. You fell from the sky over you, and broke your arm. That was yesterday. Once you had enough stamina, I fixed your arm, but you passed out again. We thought it would be days before you woke up. Falling from the sky, over you, Yesterday? Then today was the 9th, which meant it wasn't a dream. Those villains, they really kidnapped me? But how? I thought you, had protocols for things like this. I asked as I run my hands through my hair, finding a bandage there instead. Villains. It sounds like you'd better speak to the police about this. Lucky for you, there's a detective already here on campus. She told me, disposing of the needle and wiping down the cannula of the Roman IV before making me lean back and putting the Roman IV back in. All right, I'm going to get the detective. Be a good boy and wait here, okay? She told me before disappearing for a few minutes and coming back with a man in a long tan trench coat. Would you mind giving me privacy with your patient, recovery girl? He asked her, the old woman doing as he asked, shutting the door on her way out. I'm Detective 𝐀𝐦. Recovery girl mentioned villains when she came to me. Do you think you could go through what happened? He asked, pulling a notepad out. I sat up straighter because of my willing involvement, thinking of excused. I'm sure they recorded my rant about All Might in the bar, and probably had a way to monitor me now. But where I should have been afraid, I wasn't even nervous, just looking at the detective with a tired yawn. Excuse me, I'm still a bit tired, but I'll tell you about what I remember, I told him, thinking of how to phrase this. A man with blue hair and irritated, dry skin asked for a photo, threatened to kill me, and dragged me into the alley nearby. The alley seemed to connect with a bar, connected at purplish-black seams, which I'll explain in a moment, before the alley disappeared entirely. I told him, pausing to take a breath, and let him catch up on his notepad. A screen came on, and a man was hidden in the shadows, mentioning a video of me that was trending, angry with All Might. He assumed that because of that video, I'd want to join their group. They called themselves the League of Villains, offering me a quirk before the bartender, a man whose body was made of mist, like the night sky made up his being, purples and whites and blacks, all moving a bit like flames. He opened a portal under me, and I fell into a lab area, where the man from the screen, he was hooked up to machines, horribly disfigured beyond what a normal person looked like. I don't think it was a mutant-type quirk either. His eyes and mouth were scarred over. He had no hair or ears and wore a medical mask. Then, he said something about doom, and then I felt pain, like nothing I've ever felt before, excruciating, and then I passed out. I told him, making sure I kept only to facts, without giving away anything that could incriminate me. Do you know where you were taken? Was anything familiar? The detective asked, making sure to write everything I said down. I'm afraid not. I don't drink, and I don't associate with anyone who's considered a villain. I answered before laying back with a large yawn. Is there anything else you can tell me about where you were taken? Anything of note? The area I was taken to, the lab-looking place, there was a ton of wires and monitors. I didn't see what was on them because I remember just being near him was terrifying, and I couldn't help but shake. I thought I was going to die. I answered, trying my hardest to look scared or traumatized, but I just couldn't. Well, there's not much else it looks like I can glean from you, so I'll be on my way and let you rest. Thank you for your time, Midoriya. He told me, and I forced a smile, looking at him. No problem at all, I'm happy to help. I told him, the first lie of our conversation, watching his eyebrow raise a bit, but he said nothing, walking out without a word. Prick. I mumbled, sitting up and pulling out the Roman IV again. Right now, I just wanted to return home. My lack of fear suggested that maybe the disfigured man had been honest. He'd said 2 quirks. I could feel no fear, but what else was there? Doom. What did doom have to do with anything? Once recovery girl said I could leave, I called my mom, explaining what had happened, keeping some of the details secret. She didn't need to know I'd chosen to work with villains. I should have felt joy or something, but I didn't even feel that, just existing. What was wrong with me? Even my acknowledgement of the fact didn't have curiosity or worry attached. Walking into my apartment, I knew that I should have felt relief, but I didn't. Mom, I'm home. I called, stopping to put my bag in my room before turning and getting pulled into a hug. It's okay, Mom. I'm fine now. I told her, but she held on and sobbed, so I let her cry until she couldn't anymore, feeling a spark of something growing in my chest. It should have been familiar, and when I recognized it for what it was, I wondered once again what happened to me, for me to not even recognize when I felt joy. The next morning, I left the house late, and my mother worried about me. I didn't mind. I was a proud mama's boy. To know she cared enough to worry, it made me proud to call her my mother, although I missed my normal train, which, while a little inconvenient, wasn't too bad. Because of everything that had happened to me over the last couple of days, I was trending outside of the country. It wasn't every day that a promising musician was kidnapped and thrown out of a portal into a prestigious school. "Izuku," I heard her voice, like music to my ears, and turned, feeling her hug me. We were friends, but Gyro and I had never had much physical touch outside of her jacks poking me and high fives. "Hey, what's with all the touchy-feely?" I asked, smiling at her as I put my arms around her as well. She looked up, and a jack smacked me lightly as she huffed out a breath of air, already fed up with my stupid jokes. "Don't tell me I've already spent all the brownie points being kidnapped gets a man," I asked, angling my head down and making it look like I had a double chin, laughing as she pulled away. "I can't with you," she told me, but she was smiling, just a little bit, but it was there. "Promise?" I asked her, holding out my pinky. "No," she admitted, and just like that, it was like nothing happened. We didn't have to focus on what actually did happen. It made the little time we had before class just perfect. Besides the intruder alarm going off, and a tall boy with blue hair from one keeping those who were panicking in like the day was fairly normal, even if people kept coming up asking me questions that I didn't know how to answer, asking for pictures that I didn't mind giving them, and looking at me. Even the hero course students were looking at me, especially a blonde guy with a French accent. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday went pretty well. I went back to the studio after classes Saturday, this time in a car the company sent over, straight to there, and then to a hotel, spending Sunday working. That was my new schedule, working all week on my school work, and then Sunday was music, meaning I had to put in even more effort and do as much as humanly possible in one day. But strangely, it didn't take anything extra out of me, and I found that I was just able to do more than others, often waiting for them to catch up. Monday and Tuesday went smooth, but Wednesday, the world stopped looking at me and instead looked at Class 1A, who'd been attacked by none other than the League of Villains, and the world as we knew it fell apart. Unknown point of view in my hand. I held a helm, made of steel, created to fit my face perfectly, detailed with the features of a rabbit. It would slip on and hide my face, a voice modulator helping to protect my identity from anyone who knew me. And by God, was I known now. I'd made my gear, with the help of him, the one who bestowed the power of absolution. It was so easy when I had unrestricted access to materials and machines to make it. For once in my life, I had no responsibilities, no deadlines, and most importantly, no masters. "It's almost time," the raspy-voiced man told me, and I was bitter a moment. One man still had me on a leash, but soon, even he would have no hold over me. "Do not tell me what I know already. You live because your master commands it, nothing more," I replied, slipping on the helm. All that was visible were my eyes, and I'd noticed they were cold and motionless. Exactly how they needed to be, if I were to do what was coming. "Do you want to test that theory?" he threatened, taking a step forward with his hand out. But I was faster, green light stopping him in his tracks as I stepped closer to him. "I am not your subordinate, nor am I your partner. We simply have the same goal," I told him, pushing him back with my quirk. It was a reward for the hardship encountered in my life, the tool I'd use to rebuild the world. Absolute control, the ability to control technology and energy. Combined with my mind and deep understanding of quirks, I would be unstoppable. "I should kill you," he yelled, leaping at me, but a blast of energy pushed him back, and I watched him. "Enough. If you wish for death, I will grant it. But our enemy requires cooperation for the time being. However, attack again, and I promise your death will be painful," I told him, taking a seat, one arm over the back, the other on the arm of the chair, green energy flowing up and around my fingers. Letting out a childish scream, he got up and stormed off, while I watched, satisfied that he'd learned his lesson. Us falling through the portal, I made my move immediately. There was no need to sit back and watch as these street punks were defeated by hero course students. Who would stand before me? "Come, face doom," I challenged before a pro hero, who wasn't scheduled to be here, Tiger, and 3 students decided they wanted to fight. "Prepare to die," I declared, dodging a blast of ice by warming the air around me with energy, walking through it to a student with a scar on his face, before one who had solidified his body into a rock-like substance attacked from the side, getting blasted back with a small missile. A glove was thrown at him, and while I hadn't planned on fighting an invisible person, it mattered little, her strikes not strong enough to harm me through my armor. "The balance of power has shifted, little heroes. Doom will reign supreme," I told them, the pro hero, Tiger, stretching his body around me, holding my arms to my side. You really are persistent. I congratulated, before small thrusters in my boots activated, piloting us into the water. A mask slipping over my mouth so I could breathe, before eventually I grew bored. If I was going to kill him, it would be better to make a display of it. Freeing my arm, I grabbed his head, throwing him with enough force to send him out of the water, coming up as green energy flowed around me. Let's see how far you can really stretch, I told him, holding out my hand and grabbing the invisible girl by the throat. Doom does not wish to kill you, child, but I will do as I must. Stay out of my way, I told her, pushing her back before a stony finger pierced my mask, cutting my cheek before I grabbed his hand, charging energy in the tips of my fingers, and without a sound, pierced his stomach, pulling out my blood-covered hand and dropping the injured boy. Bring us All Might and no one else has to get hurt, I demanded, hacking the sound system so my voice echoed. Before I could say another word, I heard explosions, a blonde boy blasting towards me, holding out my hand to stop him and watching the energy from the explosions grow just outside of his palm, our eyes meeting. You are no threat to me, I told him, taking a step to the side as all the built-up energy propelled him headfirst into the ground. In the moment, I did not know whether he was living or dead, and it did not concern me. You monster, these are children, Tiger yelled, his dip in the water not enough to keep him down, and I turned to see his fist flying back, stretching as far as it could before he launched it at me. I moved to dodge, but ice crept up on my legs, another missile launching at Tiger's fist, the explosion and cry of pain telling me that it had found its target. And then, there was one. I spoke, building energy and walking out of the ice, approaching the lone hero course student near me, holding out my hand to grab his face, before flames shot out at me, and I absorbed them. All flames were energy. Pitiful. You should be able to do better, I told him before redirecting the energy of the flames into his arm, watching it snap in several places. Something clanged against my helmet, an invisible individual holding a piece of metal, slightly bent from hitting me. Without a word, I grabbed her throat again, choking the life out of her before the doors slammed open, and there stood our target. All Might, the #1 hero. Letting go, the invisible girl gasped for air as I walked past her and the scarred boy. All Might, prepare to face doom, I yelled, holding out one finger as I stood taller than usual thanks to my boots. What have you done? All Might demanded, veins in his arms and head pulsating as he looked at what had been a one-sided fight. The only ones who had stood a chance were the pro heroes, but Eraserhead and 13 had been taken off of the playing field quickly. I did have to commend the hero course students who were still fighting. It was almost impressive. Doom happened, All Might. Now face me, I demanded, holding out my hand, already anticipating his movements, but he never got close, the Namu we'd brought along holding All Might's fist in his hand. In that case, bring me your gear, I told the students, holding out my hands and drawing all their electronics, and the electronics the us had, building 20 bots in an instant, imbuing them with my green energy. Hurt, but don't kill, it's not their fault they're in the way, I commanded, watching them take their orders and march forward. Protect your students, or defeat Namu. Well, hero, what will you choose? I asked, watching the hero do his best to keep up with the monster. The students who weren't injured were doing their best to keep up my Doombots, but I had built them. I could keep building and repairing them until they were too tired to keep fighting. Is this all that you, an All Might can give? Pitiful. It seemed to rile up All Might, forcing him to fight harder before the Namu pressed his fingertips into the side of All Might's stomach. Yes, kill him, Namu, kill All Might, I ordered, Shigaraki looking over at me. He's designed to only take orders from one person, he told me with his raspy, irradiating voice. And you believe I am not one of them? What a bold assumption. I told him before the Namu pushed his whole hand inside, ripping out organs and squishing them in his fist. Namu, return to Shigaraki, I ordered, walking over to All Might and looking down at the dying hero. Do you remember what I told you? I will outshine you, even if it must be in death, I told him, watching All Might transform back into his skinny form. Yo. G. He tried to get out before the light in his eyes faded, and the once great All Might fell. Namu, kill Doom, Shigaraki spoke, and under my mask, I smirked. You would betray Doom for being more powerful than you, pathetic, I told him, turning and looking at Namu. Override, Doombots, kill Shigaraki, I told them, my robots stopping their beatings of students and turning to the man who had betrayed me. Namu, kill him, Shigaraki ordered. But I stared up at the beast and smiled. Did you ever expect to be lower on the list of authorized listeners than Doom? Your master already ordered that Doom comes before you. Why do you think Kurogiri did not attack me earlier? I told him, watching as I got under his skin, before he put his hand on Namu, turning it to dust in seconds. Let's go home, he decided, enraged at the fact that he had become number 2 in his own group. The first smart move you've made all day, I told him, snapping my fingers and deactivating my Doombots, their bodies melting as I collected the energy inside of them. Midoriya Izuku of Earth, 13814151513. You have been chosen for a higher purpose. A voice called in my head before I began to glow with an energy that wasn't mine and disappeared. Support workshop. As soon as the story broke, the whole country was in shambles. People cried in class, openly weeping for the hero who'd given his life in service to his country. All Might, the shining star of the world, had fallen. In the workshop, Hatsune and I wept. For all my anger, for saying I wished All Might was dead, I never meant it. Now that he was gone, I'd never have a chance to apologize for my actions or for my words. Midoriya Izuku, could you come with us? Midnight asked, and as I wiped my eyes, I saw she wasn't alone. Present Mike, Vlad King, and Endeavor all waiting there. What's going on? I asked quietly, my vision going blank as error messages popped up in front of me, and I lost consciousness. Unknown location. When I woke up, my eyes adjusted, and I screamed. I mean, who wouldn't when seeing a body being held up by chains? Once the initial shock was over, I realized it was a robotic body, wires hanging out of the neck. Okay, I did not like where this was going, and I wanted out. From the neck down, I was trapped in a device, my movements restricted, and my body so numb I couldn't feel anything. Good, it's about time you came back online. A voice called from behind me. A man with brown hair and aqua eyes told me, and I knew this man. He was a god to support students. David Shield. I muttered, and he said nothing for a moment, just pulling out his phone and playing the video of me yelling at All Might. You know, I've had my ups and downs with him too. Unlike you, however, I've never killed him. David told me, and I held back a sob. I didn't kill him. I was angry, but I didn't kill All Might. I argued, and he nodded. I know that you specifically didn't. Your creator did. My creator? Do you mean my mom? She can't kill bugs without crying, let alone All Might of all people. David laughed, and a mechanical hiss from underneath me showed something terrible, and I wanted to scream, cry, and throw up, but I couldn't. That's right, you're not Midoriya Izuku. You're just a machine. He told me, the body being lowered and my head placed on it, snapping into place, and I could move again, looking at my hands in confusion. I wasn't human. But if that was true, what was I? I was an android, made to look like the real Midoriya Izuku, given his memories, and forced to spy on you, students. But I experienced emotions. I cried, I laughed, I could feel pain. Didn't those things make me human? But I couldn't bleed, and I didn't feel the wind anymore. What I'd thought was a quirk was just my soullessness. I spent the next few days contemplating my existence, staring out a window. I didn't need to sleep. I didn't feel tired anymore. Turns out, laying down at night just activated a protocol that sent out what the cameras in my eyes and ears recorded. What do I do now? I asked one day, and David Shield looked at me. What do you mean by do? You're a machine. You follow protocols given to you. He told me, but was I? I can feel emotions. I never knew I wasn't human. My arm broke, remember? Couldn't I be the link between man and machine? I want to play music. I still miss my creator's mother, and I feel love. Machines don't feel. I argued, and he shook his head. You're a sophisticated piece of machinery, but to say you're anything more would be preposterous. Is it? We have people whose bodies are made of plastic, brick, and glass, but they're considered human. I can feel as they do, think like they do, learn, and love like they do. Doesn't that make me alive? I argued, and he thought about how to respond. Humanity has evolved to accept the limitations of humanity are not what they once were. But to say you, an android programmed with the AI based on a living person, is alive, it's a hard pill to swallow. For the time being, you're here, with us at I-Island, until we can figure out what to do with you. Besides, you've been a well of information on your creator. You could be the difference between whether or not we capture him. David told me, and I didn't reply yet, just continuing to stare out of the window for a few moments. In the days and weeks that came, I was trusted more, given privileges for my hard work, and for allowing David and his team to tinker with my insides. No longer was I a tool used to spy on others. With my confession of what I knew of the League of Villains, and the removal of any hardware that could be used for communication with them, I'd become something new. Maybe I was Midoriya Izuku once. Maybe I had been nothing more than a fancy doombot. But I neither now, and therefore, I was something new. "Who are you?" I heard. No surprise to me, as I'd already seen her approaching in the reflection of the window. "Who am I?" I have been unsure as of late. I told her truthfully, putting my hand to glass and wishing more than anything I could feel the coolness. "Who knew that I'd miss something so small? Identity crisis?" she asked, and I chuckled softly. "Is there any other kind?" I replied as she moved next to me. "I know who you are," she told me, and I began to panic now. "Is that so?" "Yes. You're another intern here to kiss my dad's butt." "How did you know?" I asked, and she pointed towards where I was looking. "You've got that look. Smart, young, full of promise. It doesn't last. Working for my dad. Not many people can keep up with him." "I believe I can," I replied before turning to look at her. "Then you're not intelligent as you look," she told me, her long blonde hair tied up with a purple scrunchie, her eyes just like her father's. "I am not," I told her, laughing as she did, my worries slipping away for a moment before the door slid open. "Melissa, get away from there, now," David shouted, prompting the both of us to move away from the other. "Go to your room," he told her, looking angry, but not with her. Once she left, he turned to me, finger pointed in my face. "Stay away from my daughter. Do not come near her again." Turning to the window, I felt a twinge of anger, punching the glass. She approached me. "What would you have me do, David?" I live with the mind and memories of a 15-year-old boy. I am him, I am less than, yet I am greater than. So what am I? Because as God is my witness, I am no machine. I told him, noticing the glass was broken before I took a deep breath, bending to pick up the shards. "Clearly, only a teenager would throw a fit like that," he replied, and as soon as the door shut, I forgot about the glass, hugging my knees to my chest and sobbing, but not a single tear could fall. They drained my body of most fluids. That night, once I'd finished crying, I set out on making myself a new body. Here on Island, I was surrounded by the most technologically advanced gear in the world. I'd make a new body, one that distanced myself from Midoriya Izuku. One that fit the vision I had of myself now. Not quite man or machine, a bit of both. Days passed, working on this, ignoring David, ignoring his team, and locking myself away in the lab. Soon, I'd have the body I needed to escape this prison, and I'd use my knowledge and power to help people. "We've let you have your fun, but this has to come to an end now," David told me through the intercom, but I held up my middle finger to the camera in response. "Did you think I was just building a body?" "Oh, David, why would I do that? I am going to expose the lies of the world governments, unless I'm given my old life back," I threatened, and after a few minutes of negotiating on his side, it was agreed. I was going back to Japan, as Midoriya Izuku. Press conference. "Oh, it's great to be back in Japan after I was put into witness protection. After the death of our great hero, All Might, I was considered a high-profile target since the people responsible had previously kidnapped me. These last few weeks, they've been hell on myself and..." I stood there, in front of the press, who'd wondered why heroes had taken an up-and-coming pop star into custody. But, so far, all I'd given them was lies. Well, I should be complete now, and that meant it was time for the truth. Truth is, I'm not Midoriya Izuku. I'm a machine who was fed his memories, given life because of a powerful AI. I've spent the last few weeks being taken apart and put back together by David Shield. I told them. And there were so many questions I couldn't answer them all, so I chose to keep speaking. "I can tell you, the real Midoriya Izuku is the villain Doom, who helped kill All Might and is currently on the run. He was given quirks by a powerful villain after agreeing to work with the League of Villains. I was sent to spy unwillingly on you, but when I was detained, my programming tried to wipe my memory clean. I do not know how I survived my system purge, but I will use this gift of life to live, not as Midoriya Izuku, or as the vision of a villain. From this day forward, I am vision. My own vision. Of truth, justice, and kindness. That is why I must abandon this body in favor of another. I told them, activating my system purge, my body starting to short circuit and smoke. Island lab opening my eyes. I began to rise up before flying off, leaving the science team who had been about to dissect my new body, screaming at me in confusion and anger. I was built like a person with red skin. Of course, for decency's sake, I also covered my body with a costume with a red diamond on my chest, a green cape and leggings that went all the way up to my pelvis, which was covered in a golden yellow, the same color as my gloves and boots were now, hairless and powered by a stone in my forehead that absorbed sunlight, golden like my eyes now were. I suddenly stopped, listening to the sound of the ocean, feeling the wind on my face. I was finally free. My body was made of Horton cells, grown in the lab, tougher than normal cells. I'd built this body to perfectly replicate a human one. But without human cells to work with, I made do with what I had. I had made this body while thinking of All Might. I felt responsible, even though I'd never raised a hand against him. So, I would honor his memory. Vision of Earth 1-381-415-1513. You have been chosen for a higher purpose. A voice called, but I was alone before suddenly I began to glow before disappearing. An unknown place, between space and time, that doesn't look like a version of us. 𝐬𝐻 smoking a cigar told him, and the old man silenced him. He is the ultimate combination of man and machine, from the same world 𝐷𝗻 is. I have chosen him to accompany you on your journey. He told the group, but I simply scanned them, finding that all but the one with bunny ears and the old man were at least part human. We're a team of 𝐬𝐻 from across the multiverse, working together to defeat a threat to every version of us. But I checked 𝐷𝗻's world, and you didn't exist a few weeks ago, and you don't look like one of us. He told me, and I nodded. Until a few minutes ago, I was nothing more than AI with the memories of 𝐬𝐻 𝐍𝐻 or 𝐷𝗻. But I built myself an organic body, and now I will stand against evil. I told him, and I touched the diamond on my chest. You were a defective 𝐷𝗻bot, nothing more. I will dismantle you when we are done here. 𝐷𝗻 spoke, sliding his helm on, a small scar on his cheek. I was. Now, I am vision. I do not truly understand my existence, but it seems that even though I was a machine, I am more human than you are, 𝐷𝗻. Enough. It's time to set out. 𝗵𝗃 the chatter. The smoking 𝐬𝐻 told us, and I watched the others. Pirate, demonic rabbit, monster, green skin, dirty, smoking, night, spider-themed costume, 𝐷𝗻, and myself. 10 people against a threat to every 𝐬𝐻 in the multiverse. Do you have names? I asked, and the green-skinned one pointed a thumb at his chest with a grin. I'm Gotham's chosen son, the Emerald Knight. He told me, putting an arm around the dirty one. This is Atlas. I've met him before, when I got sent through the multiverse. Atlas nodded, looking tired. I'm 𝐀𝐦. The smoking one told me, as the knight in his green armor held up a sword. I am Sir Deku, knight to the kingdom of might. The pirate bowed dramatically, hat in hand. I am Captain 𝐬𝐻, but most call me Greenbeard, Captain of the One for All Voyager, the most fearsome ship on the 7 seas, he told me, and I turned to the spider hero. I'm just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but these guys call me Spider Deku. The bunny looked bored but told me who he was. A sinner. But if it helps, call me Overlord. The monster 𝐬𝐻 roared, beating his chest before getting a single word out. Namu. 𝐷𝗻 looked at me before green energy built up over his body. I am 𝐷𝗻. You're better. He told me, and I made note of his behavior. Enough. We got work to do. 𝐀𝐻 told us, using a device to open a portal. Are you ready? There's no telling how time will pass where we're going, or who will survive. But I chose the best of us. So let's go stop God. He told us, stepping through into the unknown.